Chapter 2607. The day passed quickly. The situation was just as the Imperial Tutor had said. The heaven-punishing divine battleship was indeed superior. It finally caught up with the Tianqing battleship. The two battleships were less than 1,000 miles apart. Two cannons opened at the bow of the heaven-punishing divine ship, and two huge and thick divine cannons poked out. The barrels of these two divine cannons were extremely thick. They were 10 times thicker than the cannons on the sides of the divine battleship. These were the main cannons of the heaven-punishing divine battleship. They were located at the front of the divine battleship, and were extremely powerful. They were rarely used. Every time the cannons were fired, it would cost more than 1,000 divine stones. However, the heaven-punishing Great Emperor was determined to kill Ji Tianqing and capture the Tianqing battleship. Even if he had to pay a huge price, he would not hesitate. Prepare to fire the cannons and blast it to smithereens, the heaven-punishing Great Emperor ordered as he stared at the Tianqing battleship. The Imperial Tutor acknowledged the order and quickly controlled the divine formation to accumulate divine power for the two main cannons. Swoosh! The dark muzzle of the main cannon suddenly lit up with a deep purple light. The purple light was extremely concentrated divine power. It was so purple that it was almost black. It was extremely powerful. Without a doubt, the Tianqing battleship would be severely damaged if it was hit by the main cannons. Even if it was made of boundless divine stones, the consequences would be unpredictable. When the dark purple divine light in the main cannons reached its peak, they locked onto the Tianqing battleship. In the next moment, two destructive purple light pillars were about to burst out. At this moment, Bai Long, who was controlling the Tianqing battleship, sensed great danger. It's over. Master, the heaven-punishing Great Emperor is using the main cannons of the divine battleship to lock onto us. Bai Long was furious and anxious. He quickly controlled the Tianqing battleship to move left and right, drawing an arc in the sky. He moved in a chaotic pattern, trying his best to avoid being locked onto by the heaven-punishing divine battleship. At this time, Ji Tianqing stared at the void in front of him and said calmly, "Don't panic, I have a way." The star in front of him was dim and lightless, without any divine light shield formed by the natural laws of the Great Tao. It was definitely a star without any intelligent life. If we fly in the void, we won't be able to escape from Great Emperor Tianfa. Only by entering that planet and fighting Emperor Tianfa will we have a chance to survive. In front of the Tianqing battleship, there was a huge grayish-white star, quietly suspended in the void, even though the Tianqing battleship was very close to the star. However, the actual distance between the two was still hundreds of thousands of miles. Bai Long said to Ji Tianqing while controlling the battleship, "Master, you're right, but we're still at least 500,000 miles away from that star." Ji Tianqing's expression was serious as he said, "I have always believed that origin stones have many uses and are not as simple as we think. It's just that we haven't had the chance to do any deeper research. Therefore, I'm going to take a risk and give it a try." Bai Long frowned and asked curiously, "Master, what are you going to do?" Ji Tianqing didn't answer. He only ordered in a deep voice, "Get ready and stabilize." With that, he made a hand seal and activated the natural laws of space, releasing a dazzling white light. Swoosh! He pressed his palms down and injected an endless amount of white light into the Tianqing battleship. Instantly, a dazzling white light drilled into the Skyline battleship and spread out at an extremely fast speed. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, the mysterious power of the natural laws of space filled the entire Tianqing battleship, causing the battleship to light up. Seeing this, Bai Long and the three divine beasts understood Ji Tianqing's intention. "Master, will this work? Old Ji, are you trying to use the natural laws of space to teleport the battleship?" "It's not teleportation. In Bai Long's words, this is called space jump." Isn't this too whimsical?" Just as Bai Long and the three divine beasts were filled with anxiety, the Tianqing battleship suddenly shook violently. The frequency of the shaking was extremely high. It was as if some mysterious power was sealed in the battleship and was about to erupt like a volcano. Bai Long's eyes narrowed as he quickly focused on controlling the Tianqing battleship. In the next moment, the mysterious power in the Tianqing battleship finally erupted. Swoosh! The Tianqing battleship released a dazzling white light, illuminating the void within a radius of tens of thousands of miles. Immediately after, the Tianqing battleship disappeared from the spot and teleported 20,000 miles away. Without a doubt, Ji Tianqing's attempt was a success. The Tianqing battleship, which was made of dawn stones, was able to withstand the power of the natural laws of space and achieve space jump. The distance between the Tianqing battleship and the heaven-punishing divine battleship increased by 20,000 miles in an instant. Almost at the same time, the heaven-punishing divine battleship seized the opportunity to lock onto the Tianqing battleship and blasted out two destructive purple light pillars. Boom! Boom! Two purple light pillars that were hundreds of miles long blasted out from the huge and thick main cannon towards the Tianqing battleship. In the cockpit of the heaven-punishing divine battleship, the Imperial Tutor revealed a satisfied smile. His eyes were filled with anticipation. Finally, I have seized the opportunity, however. Before he could finish his sentence, he stopped abruptly. The second half of his sentence was stuck in his throat and could not be uttered anymore. This was because he saw the Tianqing battleship flash with white light and disappear from the spot with his own eyes. In the next moment, the two purple light pillars missed and blasted into the void. The Tianqing battleship appeared in the void 20,000 miles away. Unscathed. The smile on the Imperial Tutor's face froze. His expression changed drastically as a look of disbelief appeared on his face. The heaven-punishing great emperor, who was standing behind the Imperial Tutor, was also shocked. His eyes widened. What? His battleship can also teleport? And teleport 20,000 miles in one go? This is not teleportation. This is space jump. The heaven-punishing great emperor was shocked. His heart was in turmoil. It's the law of space. It must be the law of space. Ji Tianqing's battleship can also use the law of space to perform space jump. The boundless divine stone has such an incredible effect. The heaven-punishing great emperor was filled with shock and desire for the mysterious boundless divine stone even more. He could not wait to capture Ji Tianqing and interrogate him about the origin and use of the boundless divine stone. The Imperial Tutor came to his senses. He was both shocked and excited. His voice trembled as he said, "The boundless divine stone's effect is so powerful and magical? Great Emperor, if we can get the boundless divine stone and use it, who else in the 3,000 sectors can stop us?" The heaven-punishing great emperor clenched his fists and nodded solemnly. "I must get the boundless divine stone. Even the purple cloud galaxy is not as important as the boundless divine stone. I will capture Ji Tianqing even if I have to travel through the 3,000 sectors and chase him to the end of the void. I swear I will find the origin of the boundless divine stone." Download address, mobile reading. Chapter 2608. The Great Emperor of Heaven Slayer was in hot pursuit. However, the Tianqing battleship was 20,000 miles away from the heaven-slaying divine battleship. It would be difficult for the Great Emperor of Heaven Slayer to catch up. The heaven-slaying divine battleship could only travel at its fastest speed to close the distance. As time passed, the two battleships drew closer and closer to the planet. A day later, the two battleships arrived at the grayish-white planet. The two battleships were still 10,000 miles away from each other. The grayish-white planet was not protected by any divine light. Its surface was dim and lifeless. The entire surface of the planet was exposed to the void. It was cold and deadly silent. There was no spiritual chi, vegetation, or life on the planet. Grayish-white rocks and sand could be seen everywhere. The hard ground and rocks had been eroded by the void, leaving behind traces of time. At every moment, dust and stone fragments would fall from the stars and scatter into the void. Clearly, the planet was being eroded by the void. It could take hundreds of thousands of years or even tens of thousands of years for the planet to be completely eroded and reduced to dust. Swoosh! The Tianqing battleship flew into the planet and landed on a vast grayish-white land. The ground was uneven and huge rocks could be seen everywhere. They looked like mountain ranges. The Tianqing battleship flew close to the ground and fled at lightning speed. Ji Tianqing took the opportunity to release his divine consciousness to investigate the situation on the ground. He soon found the answer. He said calmly, "There is no life on this planet. There is no spiritual chi of heaven and earth. We cannot stay here for long. Otherwise, we will have nowhere to replenish our divine power. However, there is boundless land and rocks here. There is a huge amount of metal in them. I can use my law of earth here. I have a chance to fight the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer. After that, he ordered in a deep voice, White Dragon, let's stick to the original plan. You will take the battleship and fight the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer's battleship. I want to fight the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer on this planet. White Dragon and the three divine beasts nodded to show that they understood. They reminded him to be careful. Master, the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer is too powerful. Don't fight him head-on. Oh gee, if we can't win, let's find a way to escape. That's right. Where there's life, there's hope. When we're strong enough, we'll come back and kill Emperor Feng Tian. Ji Tianqing nodded. His figure flashed out of the warship and landed on the cold, desolate gray land. Shua. He landed on a small grayish-white mountain that was 1,000 meters tall. His hands were behind his back as he expressionlessly looked behind him. He stared at the heaven-punishing divine warship that was speeding towards him. When he saw this, the imperial tutor who was controlling the heaven-punishing divine warship immediately frowned and cursed angrily. Damn you little bastard. You're too arrogant and condescending. How dare he leave the battleship and face us alone? Isn't that just courting death? As he cursed, the imperial tutor hurriedly steered the divine battleship toward Ji Tianqing. At the same time, he opened up the main cannons of the divine warship and blasted out 2 purple light pillars that were as long as 5 kilometers toward Ji Tianqing. Boom boom. The 2 purple light pillars that could destroy heaven and earth pierced through the void and blasted toward Ji Tianqing. He was about to be hit by the purple light pillars, but he had no intention of dodging. When the imperial tutor saw this, he sneered mockingly and shouted, "Little bastard, you're not dodging. You're dead meat this time." However, the Emperor Feng Tian did not let his guard down. He stared at Ji Tianqing as if he was trying to see through him. He had a feeling that Ji Tianqing was not as simple as he seemed. He must have some trump cards up his sleeves. Just as he had expected. At this critical moment, Ji Tianqing suddenly raised his palms and used the law of earth. Boom! The ground under his feet suddenly rose into the air and formed a grayish-white wall that was as tall as 1,000 miles. The earth, rocks, and metals in the ground were all star golden sand and all kinds of hard rocks. This 1,000-mile wall was formed by the earth within 1,000 miles. It was extremely sturdy. Boom! Boom! The 2 purple light pillars that could destroy heaven and earth smashed into the 1,000-mile wall, creating an earth-shattering explosion. The heaven-punishing divine battleship's main cannon was indeed powerful. It had blasted 2 huge holes in the 1,000-mile wall and caused dense cracks to appear. With a series of cracking sounds, the entire high wall shattered, turning into billions of pieces of earth and stone that scattered on the ground. When the smoke and dust dissipated and the heaven-punishing divine battleship arrived above the ruins, Ji Tianqing had already disappeared. The heaven-punishing divine battleship stopped for a while. The imperial tutor and the Emperor Feng Tian released their divine senses to search for Ji Tianqing in the surrounding area. However, they could not find Ji Tianqing's aura even after searching for 60,000 miles. Damn it! Where did that brat run off to? Even if he used the law of space to teleport, he could not have escaped 60,000 miles in such a short time. Just as the two of them were in shock, tens of thousands of rock spikes suddenly emerged from the ground in all directions. Each of the rock spikes was formed by the hardest rocks and metals. They were thousands of feet long and looked like giant stalks of grass. Swish, 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 swish. In the next moment, tens of thousands of rock spikes shot out and sealed off an area of 10,000 miles. They engulfed the heaven-punishing divine battleship. The imperial tutor's expression changed immediately. He hurriedly controlled the heaven-punishing divine battleship to unleash purple light that shot into the sky and formed a huge shield. Bam 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 bam. As soon as the purple light shield was formed, it was hit by countless rock spikes. A series of earth-shattering explosions rang out. Instantly, the purple light shield started to tremble. Cracks and dents appeared on it. The heaven-punishing divine battleship was also trembling. Countless rock spikes were also shattered by the tremors. They turned into debris that filled the sky and scattered across the ruins. After the tens of thousands of rock spikes, the shield of the heaven-punishing divine battleship was completely destroyed. There were hundreds of dents and cracks on the surface of the heaven-punishing divine battleship. The imperial tutor hurriedly ordered the 36 martial god guards, and more than 2,000 black armored soldiers to quickly cast spells to repair the cracks on the heaven-punishing divine battleship. Seeing this, the heaven-punishing divine emperor frowned and pondered for a moment. Then, he ordered in a low voice, "Imperial tutor, I'll leave the heaven-punishing divine battleship to you. I'm going to deal with Ji Tianqing personally." The imperial tutor nodded and acknowledged the order. He reminded, "Be careful, great emperor. This man is very cunning and he can control the power of the earth. He most likely has mastered the law of 5 elements." To the two of them, Ji Tianqing could control the earth because he had mastered the law of 5 elements. The law of 5 elements contained the power of the earth. Naturally, he could control the earth. However, the two of them did not think too deeply about it. They did not even think about the law of earth. It was a heavenly god-level law. A true god could not possibly master it. To the heaven-punishing divine emperor and the imperial tutor, it was already shocking that Ji Tianqing could master one heavenly god-level law of space. How could he master 2 heavenly god-level laws? This was unprecedented and unheard of. Chapter 2609. Whoosh! Great Emperor Tianfa flew out of the divine battleship and stood in the sky. His face was ice-cold as he looked down at the ground with sharp eyes, searching for traces of Ji Tianqing. At the same time, the heaven-slaying divine battleship flew into the distance and chased after Tianqing's battleship. After 100 breaths, the 2 battleships disappeared into the sky tens of thousands of miles away. Only Great Emperor Tianfa and Ji Tianqing were left in this area. However, Ji Tianqing had merged with the ground and still didn't show himself. The Great Emperor of Heaven Extermination looked down at the ruins and yelled in a loud voice, "Ji Tianqing, stop hiding. How dare you show off your 5 elements laws in front of me? Come out and accept your death." His voice reverberated on the ground and covered an area of 50,000 miles. However, Ji Tianqing still didn't show himself. Thousands of dark golden dragons flew out from all directions in response to the Great Emperor of Heaven Punisher's words. Whoosh! 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 Ji Tianqing used the law of earth and absorbed the metal energy within 100,000 miles. He formed thousands of dark golden divine dragons and attacked Great Emperor Tianfa from all directions. In the blink of an eye, thousands of dark gold divine dragons had reached the Great Emperor of Heaven Slayer and engulfed him. These divine dragons were made of metal and weren't real life. Therefore, they weren't afraid of death and were extremely powerful. After all, their purpose of existence was to injure Great Emperor Tianfa. It was worth it even if they had to disintegrate. At this critical moment, Great Emperor Tianfa shone with purple light and unleashed a terrifying power. He punched 360 times and kicked 540 times. His attack speed was so fast that his body blurred and turned into a purple shadow. Boom! 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 In just 2 breaths he destroyed more than 900 dark golden divine dragons. Only over 60 dark golden divine dragons struck him, causing his entire body to tremble as purple light flashed explosively. By the time all the dark golden divine dragons disappeared, he'd been thrown dozens of miles away. His divine crown was crooked, his hair was messy, and his clothes were tattered. However, that was all. He was still completely unharmed. Haha! To be able to utilize the 5 elemental laws to such an extent with the strength of a true god, you can be considered an outstanding talent among true gods. Unfortunately, this bit of power is like scratching an itch to this emperor. The Emperor of Heaven Extermination snickered disdainfully. He raised his fists and slammed them into the ground with destructive force. Boom! Boom! 2 fist auras as large as mountains, purple to the point that they were almost black, smashed into the ground, causing an earth-shattering boom. Instantly, a huge crater with a radius of 10,000 miles was blasted out of the ground, and hundreds of wide gullies appeared around it. Each gully was tens of thousands of miles long like an abyss. An endless amount of gravel and dust rose into the air, surging like clouds. A massive earthquake swept through a radius of 50,000 miles, causing the entire region to be turned upside down. Even though Ji Tianqing had used the laws of the earth in time to fuse with the earth within 100,000 miles, he still hadn't succeeded. However, nearly half of the earth had been destroyed into ruins, which also caused him to bear a tremendous amount of power, causing his injuries to worsen. He felt as if his internal organs had shifted, and his divine consciousness was also dizzy. He tried his best to suppress the injuries in his internal organs, and only then did he regain consciousness. At this moment, the Emperor of Heaven Extermination raised his right foot again. He slowly accumulated all his divine power and stomped down. Ji Tianqing had no doubt that the Emperor of Heaven Extermination's stomp could destroy everything within 100,000 miles. He didn't dare to be careless. He hurriedly traveled through the ground, and in the blink of an eye, he was already 30,000 miles away. Boom! The giant foot, which covered the sky and the earth, stomped down on the ground with a force that could suppress everything. At that moment, the ground within 100,000 miles caved in, and sand and dust shot up into the sky. Half of this region had already been destroyed, and the remaining 50,000 miles of land had also collapsed, turning into a huge crater. The terrifying impact spread wildly underground, destroying the rock layers thousands of miles deep, and turning them into dust. The power of the Emperor of Heaven Extermination's stomp was very close to that of a true god. Even though Ji Tianqing had managed to escape in time, he was still hit by the aftershocks. He spat out blood, and his internal organs were shattered. Swoosh! The destructive impact wrapped around him as he rushed out from the depths of the ground and flew into the void. He hurriedly circulated his divine power to suppress the injuries in his internal organs, and tried his best to stay conscious. The Emperor of Heaven Extermination saw that he had been forced out of the ground, and he quickly teleported after him. Haha! Little B** starred. You want to fight me with this little ability? The Emperor of Heaven Extermination laughed as he waved his hands. Two giant palms shot toward Ji Tianqing, covering the sky. Ji Tianqing reacted quickly. He held the sword of burial of heaven with both hands and swung it at the palms. Boom! Boom! A giant crescent-shaped sword that was 100 miles long struck the two giant palms. The two palms collapsed at the same time, and they exploded into pieces. Ji Tianqing's body flashed, and he burrowed into the grayish-white ground again. He used the law of Earth to counterattack. Earth Dragon flips the sky. He merged with the Earth again, and he used all his power to use this technique. He gathered the power of the Earth and turned it into an Earth Dragon that was 100 miles long. It soared into the sky and crashed toward the Emperor of Heaven Extermination. The Emperor of Heaven Extermination teleported away, but the Earth Dragon was too big. He couldn't dodge it in the end, and he was hit by the enormous dragon head. Boom! There was a muffled sound, and the Emperor of Heaven Extermination was sent flying. He crashed into the ruins 100 miles away. The Earth Dragon took the opportunity to counterattack. It raised its head and neck high, and it fell from the sky toward the Emperor of Heaven Extermination. The Emperor of Heaven Extermination was about to crawl out of the ruins. When he saw this, he hurriedly used the Earth Escape technique to escape 10,000 miles away. Boom! There was an earth-shattering sound, and the Earth Dragon crashed into the ruins. Debris and rocks flew into the sky. A 10,000-mile-long trench appeared in the ground. It was like an abyss. The terrifying impact hit the Emperor of Heaven Extermination, and he was blasted out of the ground. He flew back into the sky. His clothes were even more ragged, and the divine crown on his head was shattered. His face was green and red, and he panted furiously. Sky-shattering slash. In his fury, the Emperor of Heaven Extermination took out a 30-meter-long ancient bronze divine saber and slashed at the Earth Dragon. Boom! Crack! A dark purple blade of light that was hundreds of kilometers in length swept through the void and severed the neck of the Dragon of Earth on the spot. Roar! The Earth Dragon let out a painful howl as its upper body collapsed. Its neck and head were both shattered into countless rocks and soil. Its lower body shrank back into the ground and disappeared. The Earth Dragon was cut in half, and Ji Tianqing was severely injured as well. His injuries were even worse. He had to retreat quickly to distance himself from the Emperor of Heaven Extermination. However, the Emperor of Heaven Extermination didn't give up. He wielded the ancient bronze divine saber and slashed down again. Boom! Crack! The 100-mile-long purple light blade slashed into the ground, creating a 10,000-mile-long trench. The indestructible saber chi extended tens of thousands of miles into the ground, creating a huge abyss. Chapter 26:10. Before this, the heaven-punishing emperor had never used a weapon. He probably thought that Ji Tianqing was not powerful enough to make him use a weapon. Now that he had taken out his ancient bronze saber, it was clear that he was going to use his full strength. He sped through the void and chased after Ji Tianqing with his divine saber. Ji Tianqing merged with the earth and became invisible as he sped through the ground. The two of them chased after each other. Everywhere they passed, the ground collapsed and turned into ruins. Countless ravines were left behind. As time passed, the battle became more and more clear. Ji Tianqing's injuries continued to worsen. He had used up a lot of his divine power and could not replenish it. His power was weakening, and his situation was becoming more and more dangerous. The heaven-punishing emperor's divine power was even more vigorous and domineering. It was as if he had an endless supply of divine power. Even though Ji Tianqing's occasional counterattacks would leave him in a very sorry state, Ji Tianqing's face was covered in dust. However, he was only slightly injured and was not in a serious condition. He was confident that he would be able to capture Ji Tianqing. Once Ji Tianqing's divine power was exhausted, he would be at his mercy. On the other side, the Tianqing battleship and the heaven-punishing divine battleship were also engaged in a fierce battle. Both battleships were very agile. They kept teleporting in the void. Most of the time, the two battleships were chasing after each other, looking for each other's weaknesses and taking the opportunity to attack. However, there were also a few times when the two battleships were too close to each other and engaged in close combat. The two battleships had even collided a few times. The shields of both battleships had been shattered and their hulls had been distorted. At the beginning of the battle, the imperial tutor had thought that the heaven-punishing divine battleship was of a higher grade. Whether it was its resources, sturdiness, or the power of its divine cannons, they were all stronger than the Tianqing battleship. However, after 2 days of fighting, he realized that the Tianqing battleship was not to be underestimated. It was no weaker than the heaven-punishing divine battleship. Its defense was very strong, and its divine cannons were very powerful. Most importantly, the Tianqing battleship seemed to have inexhaustible divine power, as if its power would never run out. The more the imperial tutor fought, the more shocked he became. He could not help but wonder if the realmless divine stone had such an effect. It could actually store an endless amount of divine power? The reason why the heaven-punishing divine warships had been able to last for so long was because of the massive amount of godstones and resources stored within the warships. Those godly stones could support the godly warships to travel through the 10 major galaxies. They would not be depleted for 100 years. However, in such a high-intensity battle, the consumption rate of the godly stones would increase by dozens of times. At the thought of this, the imperial tutor began to panic. He wanted to destroy Tianqing's battleship as soon as possible. However, this was a task that could not be completed in a short period of time. Unknowingly, 10 days had passed. Ji Tianqing and Great Emperor Tianfa chased each other across the stars for 10 days, covering 3 million miles. Compared to the entire planet, 6 million kilometers was only 1% of its surface area. However, the battle between the two was about to end. In these 10 days, the two had exchanged 100,000 blows, destroying 6 million miles of land. Ji Tianqing's injuries continued to worsen. In the end, he was in an extremely tragic state. His physical body was severely damaged. His left leg had been shattered. His internal organs had also been shattered. His entire body was covered in wounds and bloody holes. He was completely covered in blood. Countless pale golden divine bones could be seen in the numerous wounds all over his body. After suffering such heavy injuries, not only was he in a miserable state, but his divine power was also weakened. His consciousness was also a little hazy. Even the speed at which he was traveling through the ground had been reduced by 40%. He could no longer shake off the great Emperor Tianfa's pursuit. At this point, he knew that he could not defeat the great Emperor Tianfa. He could only try to escape. However, the great Emperor Tianfa kept pestering him. He had no chance of escaping at all. Moreover, he had managed to shake off the great Emperor Tianfa's pursuit and escape on his own. However, Tianqing's battleship could not escape. Since he was going to escape, he had to bring White Dragon and the 3 divine beasts with him. Therefore, Ji Tianqing used his divine soul to send an order to White Dragon, who was tens of thousands of miles away. White Dragon, come and meet up with me. Given our current situation, we have no chance of winning. We can only think of a way to escape from this place and shake off the great Emperor Tunaf. White Dragon received the order and stopped pestering the heaven-slaying divine battleship. He hurried to meet up with Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing also tried his best to avoid the great Emperor Tianfa's attacks. He tried his best to stall for time. Very quickly, for hours passed. The Tianqing's battleship finally caught up with Ji Tianqing and met up with him. At this moment, Ji Tianqing had exchanged a few hundred blows with the great Emperor Tianfa. His injuries had worsened. His divine power was almost depleted. His combat strength had decreased by 70%. He was at the end of his rope. He tried his best to leap up from the ground and was about to fly into the Tianqing's battleship. Just then, the heaven-slaying divine battleship caught up with him. It turned on its main cannon and shot out two purple light pillars. Boom! Boom! Two dazzling purple light pillars with destructive power shot toward Ji Tianqing. However, Ji Tianqing was severely injured and could not dodge the attack. At this critical moment, White Dragon decisively turned the Tianqing's battleship around and stood between Ji Tianqing and the purple light pillars. Kaboom! With a deafening sound, the two purple light pillars hit the Tianqing's battleship. The golden light shield of the Tianqing's battleship was smashed into pieces. Two huge dents appeared on the battleship's hull. Cracks spread all over the hull. The violent impact threw the battleship into the air. It rolled and crashed into the depths of the void. Without a doubt, the Tianqing's battleship had been severely damaged. However, it had blocked the heaven-slaying divine battleship's attack and saved Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing took this opportunity to enter the battleship. He was temporarily safe. However, the Tianqing's battleship was tumbling in the void at high speed. It had temporarily lost control. After the battleship flew a few hundred miles away, White Dragon finally regained control of the battleship. However, an even greater danger came. Great Emperor Fa, who had been waiting for a chance to attack, unleashed his full strength and used his trump card. Sky-piercing. He roared with a voice as loud as a bell, then threw out a 1,000-mile-wide dark purple palm, smashing down from the sky. Kaboom! Before White Dragon could control the battleship to dodge the attack, the battleship was hit by the huge palm. There was a deafening sound. The 2,000-feet-long Skyline battleship was smacked until it deformed, twisting together like a fried dough twist. The next moment, the huge palm closed around the Tianqing's battleship and captured it on the spot. The huge palm was extremely powerful. It held the Tianqing's battleship tightly as if it was holding a small fish. No matter how hard the battleship struggled, it could not break free. It's over. White Dragon and the three godly beasts thought at the same time. Their eyes dimmed. However, Ji Tianqing, who was severely injured, made a decision without hesitation. Swoosh! He left the battleship in a flash. At the same time, he used his divine will to control the Tianqing's battleship. It shrunk to the size of a fingernail and entered his body. As for himself, he was unable to escape the shackles of the giant palm and was thus captured. Chapter 26:11. Ha 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 ha. The great Emperor of Heaven Punisher laughed and flew to the side of the giant palm. He placed his hands behind his back and looked at the giant palm with a cold smile. Ji Tianqing, this is what happens when you go against me. Now you only have two choices. Submit to me or die. As he spoke, the great Emperor of Heaven Punisher secretly controlled the giant palm to crush Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing was gripped tightly by the gigantic palm, withstanding an unparalleled pressure. His body was bent over and his whole body was covered in cold sweat. His body was special and had been tempered thousands of times. It was extremely tough and powerful. However, he was severely injured and could not withstand the great Emperor of Heaven Punisher's attack. Not only was his body becoming more and more crooked, but his bones were also cracking. Many of them were broken. When he heard the great Emperor of Heaven Punisher's voice, he remained silent and did not respond. He only tried his best to resist. The great Emperor of Heaven Punisher saw that he was stubbornly resisting and laughed coldly. Haha, If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? You killed the Southern Expedition Marshal and killed so many of my warriors. Even if I cut you into pieces and kill you over and over again, it would not be enough to vent my anger. However, I am magnanimous and forgiving. I am not a vengeful person. For a genius with such outstanding talent and outstanding strength like you, this emperor also cherishes talent and can't bear to kill you just like that. It was obvious that the great Emperor of Heaven Punisher was trying to persuade Ji Tianqing to surrender. Ji Tianqing, I will give you a chance. As long as you're willing to submit to me, I'll write off everything that happened before and I won't pursue it. Not only that, when the position of the Southern Expedition Marshal becomes vacant, I will announce to the world that you will be the new Southern Expedition Marshal. From today onwards, you will be my right-hand man and my trusted general. Moreover, I will reward you with heavenly god-level skills and weapons to help you reach the peak of the true god realm as soon as possible. I believe you know that in the mortal world, the 9th level true god realm is the limit. No one can reach the heavenly god realm. However, I have received a divine decree from the upper realm and have received divine grace. I can help you ascend to the upper realm and break through to the heavenly god realm. At this point, the Emperor of Heaven Law smiled with satisfaction and said in a serious tone, Ji Tianqing, this is my sincerity. I hope you will consider it carefully. Great Emperor Tian Fa's words were very persuasive. The vast majority of true divinity powerhouses would find it hard to refuse such generous conditions. They would definitely be moved. However, in Ji Tianqing's ears, these words were especially laughable. How could the former unparalleled divine king be tempted by these insignificant benefits? How could he submit to a puny true god? Ji Tianqing's bloodstained face revealed a contemptuous sneer. He said in a low voice, Great Emperor Tian Fa, your conditions are indeed tempting, so, halfway through his speech, he stopped abruptly at the most crucial moment. The great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing listened quietly but did not hear anything else. He hurriedly asked, so what? Do you accept or reject? Ji Tianqing did not answer. While the great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing was distracted, he suddenly shrunk his body until he was as small as a speck of dust. Whoosh! He instantly unleashed his strongest power and passed through the gaps in the giant palm in an attempt to escape. However, the great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing was a cunning old fox. He had already prepared for this. How could he let him escape so easily? Swoosh! With a flash of purple light, the giant palm turned into a huge purple ball of light and sealed Ji Tianqing inside. The purple ball of light was like a cage that trapped Ji Tianqing firmly. Unless he could break the cage, there was no way he could escape. He had just flown a few thousand feet away when he slammed into the purple barrier and was sent flying back. He was completely helpless. He could only return to his original form and give up on resisting for now. The great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing waved his hand. The purple ball of light shrunk to 3 feet tall and stopped in front of him. His gaze passed through the purple ball of light and stared at Ji Tianqing. With a mocking sneer he said, Ha! This emperor already knew that you were full of tricks and extremely cunning. How could I let you escape? Don't even think about it. Once you're in my hands, you'll never be able to escape. Now I'm going to ask you one last time. Surrender or die. Ji Tianqing furrowed his brows with a solemn expression. In this situation, even if he had thousands of tricks up his sleeve, he could not use them. He remembered the heavenly divine artifact he had obtained in the purple divine palace, the heavenly star shuttle. However, he was sealed in the purple ball of light, and the great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing was staring at him. He had no chance to use the heavenly star shuttle. He had no choice but to stall for time. Wait! Ji Tianqing stared coldly at the great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing. He said in a low voice, the Heaven Punishing tribe has always been cunning and cruel. How can I trust you? Ha ha ha. The great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing sneered when he saw that Suemo had changed his mind and was about to surrender. Ji Tianqing, don't forget your current situation. Whether you believe me or not, you don't have a choice. The great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing tribe meant that if Suemo did not want to die, he would have to surrender to him. As for whether or not he would keep his promise, that would depend on his mood. Ji Tianqing pretended to be angry and glared at the great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing tribe. He hesitated for a moment before he said, "All right, I'll believe you for now. However, things are not that simple. What do you want?" "You're smart. You saw through me immediately." The great emperor of the heaven-punishing tribe smiled proudly. "Although I value talents, I won't give you preferential treatment just because you're talented. In comparison, I'm more interested in your battleship. Tell me, how did you build your battleship?" "It's not a heavenly god-grade battleship, but it's as powerful and effective as a heavenly god-grade battleship." "I'm very curious about that." Ji Tianqing's heart skipped a beat. He sneered to himself. He's here for the Dawn Stones. He wants to investigate the origin and effectiveness of the Dawn Stones. That's his real motive. Understanding this, Ji Tianqing pretended to be confused and said, "My battleship? I built it myself. Apart from the heavenly god-grade formation, there's nothing special about it." The great emperor of the heaven-punishing tribe frowned. He sized Suemo up and said in a mocking tone, "Ha ha, is that so? I don't think so. Ji Tianqing, you're a smart man. I won't beat around the bush with you. Tell me the truth. Was your battleship built with boundless divine stones?" "Boundless divine stone?" Ji Tianqing pretended to be puzzled as he looked at him and asked, "What is that?" "I came across those special divine stones by chance and built them into a battleship." The great emperor of the heaven-punishing tribe's smile grew wider when he saw Suemo revealing the truth. He continued to ask, "Very good. Then tell me, where did you get those divine stones?" Download address. Chapter 26:12. Back in the Five Elements world, the Heaven Punisher tribe was the first to discover the Dawn Stones. Moreover, the Dawn Stones were so powerful that even Ji Tianqing was shocked. Therefore, he was not surprised that the Heaven Punisher cared so much about the Dawn Stones. Faced with the Heaven Punisher's question, Suemo naturally lied. "I found those black godly stones on a certain planet when I was traveling in the starry sky." The Heaven Punisher frowned and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Obviously, he knew that Ji Tianqing was lying. However, he did not expose him. He continued to ask, "Which planet? The Five Elements world?" Ji Tianqing's heart skipped a beat. He thought to himself, if the Heaven Punisher knows about the Five Elements world, Marshal Nan must have reported it to him. If that's the case, he might not be here for the Purple Cloud planet. He might be here for the Dawn Stones. That's right. That must be the reason. Otherwise, how could he have reached the Purple Cloud planet so quickly? There's only one explanation. When he found out about the Dawn Stone's powerful effects, he had already set off for the Purple Cloud planet. Thinking of that, Ji Tianqing nodded expressionlessly and said, "Perhaps. I don't remember the name of that star either." The Heaven Punisher's eyes turned even colder. He asked in a low voice, "When and under what circumstances did you find the boundless divine stones in the Five Elements world?" "This is an important question. You'd better think carefully before you answer me. Otherwise, I'll let you taste the most painful feeling in the world." Seeing how serious and cold the Heaven Punisher was, Ji Tianqing suddenly thought of something. Previously, on the Purple Cloud planet, Godmaster Silvermoon had told him that the Heaven Punisher tribe was protected by the Upper Realms deities. In other words, the Heaven Punisher tribe was a deity's lackey. The Heaven Punisher seemed to be very powerful, and had dominated all 3,000 worlds. However, he was actually working for the deities. Ji Tianqing asked tentatively, "Heaven Punisher, since you want the boundless divine stones so much, I'll tell you the truth and help you find a large number of them. How will you reward me?" Martial Emperor Tianfa frowned. He suppressed his anger and said in a deep voice, "I'll fulfill my promise to you." Ji Tianqing shook his head and sneered playfully, "Ha, I don't care about that little favor." He dared to negotiate with Great Emperor Tianfa. This infuriated the Emperor of Heaven Extermination even more. His murderous intent surged and he wanted to rip Yi Futian's head off. However, in order to consider the overall situation and find out the source of the boundless divine stone, the Emperor of Heaven's punishment could only suppress his anger and ask in a deep voice, "Then what do you want?" Ji Tianqing said without hesitation, 1 Heavenly God's Law, 2 Heavenly God Weapons, 3 Heavenly God Great Cultivation Techniques. These are my conditions. None of them can be missing. Bastard! Emperor Tianfa could no longer hold back his anger. He yelled murderously, "Who do you think you are? How dare you negotiate with me?" Ji Tianqing was not afraid at all. He smiled confidently and said, "You can only choose to accept or reject me. Of course, if you reject me, I won't reveal a single clue even if I have to die." The Emperor of Heaven's punishment was furious. He glared at Yi Futian and cursed, "You little bastard. I'll kill you now and then go to the Five Elements world and search the entire planet. Do you think you have the right to threaten me? Ha ha ha. Then what are you waiting for?" Ji Tianqing was even more certain of his guess. He laughed coldly and said, "Hurry up and kill me. You!" The Emperor of Heaven's punishment instinctively raised his palms. He was about to activate his divine skill to kill Ji Tianqing on the spot. However, just as his divine skill was about to burst out, he calmed down and suppressed his murderous intent. After taking a deep breath, the Emperor of Heaven's punishment glared at Ji Tianqing and said coldly, "Kid, my time is precious. Therefore, I can consider your conditions." When Ji Tianqing heard this, a smile appeared on his face. "Haha. Just as I expected. The Emperor of Heaven's punishment would never have the Heavenly God's law, Heavenly God's weapon, and 3 Heavenly God's skills. However, since he agreed to this condition, it means that he can contact the deities in the upper realm and ask for these things. This means that the Dawn Stones are more important than the Purple Cloud Starfield. In fact, the Emperor of Heaven's punishment might have reported this to the deities in the upper realm. The deities in the upper realm are also very interested in the Dawn Stones. That's why they ordered the Emperor of Heaven's punishment to investigate this matter thoroughly and get his hands on the Dawn Stones. That's why the Emperor of Heaven's punishment is looking for the Dawn Stones at all costs. Ji Tianqing's test was a success. He had gathered this information from the Emperor of Heaven's punishment's reaction. However, he could not bring himself to be happy. Instead, his heart sank. Even I, the former deity king, am tempted by the Dawn Stones, let alone the deities behind the Emperor of Heaven's punishment. If the deities in the upper realm want the Dawn Stones too, we'll be in trouble. The 5 Elements world will never have a peaceful life again. The Emperor of Heaven's punishment weighed the pros and cons and finally made up his mind. He stared sharply at Ji Tianqing, nodded and said, "Ji Tianqing, I can agree to the conditions you mentioned just now. However, you have to hand over the warship. Also, you have to submit to me and bring me into the 5 Elements world to find the boundless divine stone." Ji Tianqing pretended to hesitate for a moment. Then, he gritted his teeth and nodded. "All right, it's a deal then. To prove your sincerity, you have to remove the seal first. Then I'll give you the warship." The Emperor of Heaven's punishment sneered. "Ji Tianqing, are you too naive, or do you think I'm stupid? Once I remove the seal, you'll run for your life." As he spoke, the Emperor of Heaven's punishment waved his hand and used a divine art to control the purple light. It turned into a purple chain as thick as an arm and bound Ji Tianqing tightly. This way, Ji Tianqing would have a chance to move, but he would not be able to escape. If he tried to escape, the Emperor of Heaven's punishment could control the purple chain and drag him back. "Now hand over the warship." Emperor Tianfa stared at Ji Tianqing with burning eyes and ordered in a deep voice. Ji Tianqing did not resist. As he took out the Tianqing warship, he secretly gathered his divine power and wrapped it around the heavenly star shuttle in his body. The ancient heavenly star shuttle had shrunk to the size of a strand of hair and was hidden in his mind. As the divine power entered the heavenly star shuttle, the ancient heavenly divine weapon was activated and shone with dazzling starlight. At the same time, the Tianqing warship flew out from Ji Tianqing's forehead and floated in front of him. The warship expanded to the size of a palm. It spun slowly and shone with a mysterious black light. The mysterious aura and powerful energy of the Dawn Stones were on full display at this moment. The Emperor of Heaven's punishment was immediately attracted. He stared at the Tianqing warship and observed it carefully. Chapter 26:13. Swoosh! The power of the heavenly star shuttle exploded. It released a mysterious starlight that enveloped Ji Tianqing. In an instant, he was enveloped by the starlight and disappeared before the great Emperor of Heaven's eyes. The mysterious and powerful power brought him through the void and 1 billion miles of space. He arrived at the nearest star. He was bound by the purple light chains and could not move freely. He could not use his divine power to fight back, or use his sword techniques or divine skills. However, he only used a bit of divine power in his mind to activate the heavenly star shuttle, while the great Emperor of Heaven was distracted. The great Emperor of Heaven's path did not expect Ji Tianqing to have such a trump card. When he sensed that something was wrong and tried to control the purple light chains to catch Ji Tianqing, it was too late. In a flash of starlight, Ji Tianqing disappeared before the great Emperor of Heaven's path. Even the palm-sized Tianqing battleship was taken away by Ji Tianqing. The great Emperor of Heaven's path was stunned. He stared at the void dumbfounded. He was so shocked that he could not speak. After a long while he came to his senses. He quickly released his divine senses to cover an area of 80,000 miles. In the void, this was the limit of what his divine sense could reach. However, there was nothing within 80,000 miles except for him and the heaven-slaying divine battleship. Ji Tianqing had already run far away and disappeared without a trace. The great Emperor of Heaven's path was so angry that his face turned black. Killing intent surged in his chest. Ah! That D***M*B* starred. How dare he escape from under my nose? How is that possible? What did he do? Even my sky-sealing chains could not control him. The great Emperor of Heaven's path had been able to obtain Ji Tianqing, the battleship, and the boundless divine stone. However, in the blink of an eye, the cooked duck had flown away. The great Emperor of Heaven's path could not accept this result. He was so furious that he wanted to massacre an entire world to appease his anger. A moment later, the heaven-slaying divine battleship flew over from afar and stopped beside the great Emperor of Heaven. Shwa! Imperial Tutor Heaven Punishing flew out of the ship and arrived beside Emperor Heaven Punishing. He asked curiously, Emperor, what just happened? Where is Ji Tianqing? As he asked, the Imperial Tutor also looked around, searching for Ji Tianqing's whereabouts. Martial Emperor Tianfan's face darkened. He clenched his teeth and said coldly, he ran away. What? The Imperial Tutor of the Heavens widened his eyes in shock. He asked in disbelief, he actually escaped from your hands? How is this possible? Wasn't he severely injured by you and unable to fight back? The Imperial Tutor's question made Emperor Heaven Punisher feel even more humiliated. His face darkened even more. That bastard is very cunning. Even if he is at the end of his rope, he still has a trump card that he has never used. He didn't know what kind of divine artifact he used, or what kind of divine ability, but he actually managed to teleport away. At that time my sky-sealing chain was still binding him. That mysterious power forcefully cut off my connection with the sky-sealing chain and took him away from this place. The Imperial Tutor of the Heavens was even more shocked and speechless. After a long silence he asked tentatively, Emperor, what should we do next? Should we continue to hunt down Ji Tianqing? Emperor Heaven Punisher's face darkened. He shouted coldly, he has already escaped without a trace. I can't sense the sky-sealing chain's aura either. How am I supposed to hunt him down? Let him live for a few more years. I will deal with the purple cloud planet first. Then, I will personally head to the Five Elements world to look for the boundless divine stone. Once I have dealt with the boundless divine stone, I will hunt him down. The Imperial Tutor of the Heavens thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. Emperor Heaven Punisher is wise. Ji Tianqing's life is nothing compared to the boundless divine stone. With that, the Emperor Heaven Punisher and the Imperial Tutor of the Heavens turned around and entered the ship. Soon they left the abandoned planet. The Heavens Punisher of the Heavens Punisher returned to the void and flew back to the purple cloud planet. At the same time, in the void a billion miles away from the abandoned planet, there was a tiny barren planet. This star was the same as the abandoned star. It was a lifeless star and it was very close to the star. However, this planet was grayish-brown in color, and only had a diameter of a few million miles. It was dozens of times smaller than the abandoned planet. This was because this planet was much older. More than half of it had been eroded by the void. In another 20 to 30,000 years at most, this useless star would completely turn into dust and disappear into the void. Swoosh! On the surface of the grayish-brown planet, a dazzling ray of starlight suddenly lit up on the ground that was full of holes. After the starlight dissipated, a young man in ragged clothes and covered in golden blood appeared. This man was in a terrible state. His body was covered in wounds and bloody holes. His aura was very weak and he was on the verge of passing out. Plop! Just as he landed on the grayish-brown rocky hill, he stumbled and fell to the ground. Huff! Huff! He lay on the cold rock and panted heavily. Golden blood kept flowing out of his nose and mouth. Emperor Heaven Punisher, I Ji Tianqing will remember today's grudge. One day I will pay you back 100-fold. Not just you, but the entire Heaven Punisher race will be turned to dust. Ji Tianqing closed his eyes as he spoke in a sinister voice. He had used the Heavenly Star Shuttle to successfully escape from Emperor Heaven Punisher's clutches. However, he still remembered the complicated look in God Lord Silvermoon's eyes as she died in the divine flames. He also could not forget the pain and trauma he had suffered over the last 10 days. If he did not tear Emperor Heaven Punisher to pieces and destroy the entire Heaven Punisher race, how could he resolve the hatred in his heart? After panting for a few moments, he took out the Tianqing battleship and stepped onto it with great difficulty. The white dragon and the 3 divine beasts hastily went up to him upon seeing his return. Master, how are your injuries? Old Ji, how did you get so injured? Hurry! Don't just stand there. Help Old Ji get treated. Everyone help me. Let's circulate our qi to treat Old Ji's injuries. Ji Tianqing waved his hand when he saw how worried and anxious they were. He said in a low voice, "What are you panicking about? I won't die yet. I don't need you to heal me. White Dragon, return to the 5 Elements world immediately. The 3 of you go repair the battleship." White Dragon acknowledged the order and hurriedly piloted the Tianqing battleship into the void, returning to the 5 Elements world. The 3 divine beasts were still worried. They watched as Ji Tianqing entered the secret chamber before continuing to repair the battleship's damage. Very quickly, the battleship regained its calm. White Dragon focused on piloting the battleship and returning to the 5 Elements world as quickly as possible. The 3 divine beasts each occupied a secret chamber, silently circulating their qi and cultivating. Ji Tianqing sat alone in one of the secret chambers. He took out a few origin stones and absorbed the divine power within to quickly recover his strength and injuries. The next few months were smooth sailing. There was only eternal coldness and gloom in the void. When Ji Tianqing and the others had left the 5 Elements world, it had taken them nearly a year to reach Purple Heaven Star. Chapter 26:14. That evening, the Tianqing battleship returned to the 5 Elements world and arrived outside the Divine Light Seal. The dazzling golden light barrier was as dazzling as ever, sealing the 5 Elements world. Bai Long used his secret technique to control the Tianqing battleship and tried to attack the golden light barrier. Kaboom! With a deafening explosion, the Tianqing battleship crashed into the golden light barrier but was bounced back. That incomparably huge golden barrier did not even have the slightest crack. It only violently fluctuated a few dozen times. The White Dragon had long expected such an outcome. Not only was he not disappointed, he even smiled and muttered to himself, "The God Spirit seal of the 5 Elements world is indeed powerful and unparalleled. Even a heavenly God-level battleship cannot break the seal and enter the 5 Elements world. Even the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer's battleship would have to find cracks and gaps." In the past, when the Southern Marshal and General Dragon Subduing were defeated in the 5 Elements world, they could use divine artifacts to escape. Back then, Bai Long had suspected that the divine light seal of the 5 Elements world was so weak. Now he understood. There was something special about this golden light barrier. It was strong on the outside but weak on the inside. It was very difficult to enter the 5 Elements world from the void. The divine light barrier was extremely strong. However, it was much easier to leave the 5 Elements world and enter the void. As such, the divine light barrier seal on the 5 Elements world was weakened, but its protection of the 5 Elements world was very strong. This discovery made Bai Long think of a problem. It seems that the divine light barrier's main purpose is not to seal the 5 Elements world, but to protect this world. The White Dragon sighed thoughtfully. Then, he controlled the battleship to fly in the void. He sped around the divine light barrier, looking for cracks and gaps. Half a month later, he finally found a gap. It was a gap with a radius of 100 miles. There was a sharp star remnant in it. Under Bai Long's control, the Tianqing battleship shrunk 100 times. It successfully passed through the gap between the star remnant and the divine light barrier and returned to the Five Elements world. Unfortunately, the battleship appeared on an unfamiliar continent. This continent was very vast, but it revealed a boundless primitive atmosphere. Primitive forests and huge demon beasts could be seen everywhere. After flying for over 100,000 miles, the battleship finally found a large but crude city. The tall city wall was built with huge rocks, and the buildings in the city were tall and rough, completely different from those of the human race. One after another, half-beastmen wearing animal skins with the heads of all kinds of beasts, bearing their fangs, lived peacefully in the city. Seeing this, the white dragon immediately understood. This was the wild continent. Among the continents of the Five Elements world, this was the oldest and most primitive continent. This vast continent maintained many of the features of ancient times. More than 80% of the intelligent races on the wild continent were half-beastmen. Beastmen did not have high intelligence, so their martial arts and livelihood were somewhat backward. The only thing worth praising was that the beastmen had deep-rooted racial beliefs. On the wild continent, any city where beastmen gathered would definitely have an ancient temple nearby. Regardless of whether it was this life or the previous life, Bai Long had never come to the wasteland continent. He was filled with curiosity about the desolate continent. He wanted to travel around and explore more secrets. However, time didn't allow it. He could only use brute force to find the strongest person on the wild continent and inquire about the whereabouts of Xianpin Gate. Xianpin Gate was also known as the Sky Scar. It was a shortcut from the four lower continents to the Shunwu continent. 10 days later, the White Dragon found the Berserk Beast Warlord as he wished and inquired about the whereabouts of Xianpin Gate. The Berserk Beast Warlord was one of the strongest people on the wild continent, and his strength had reached the second level of the primordial spirit realm. He ruled over more than 30 different races of half-beastmen, spanning millions of miles and over 1 billion people. Of course, the Berserk Beast Warlord was as weak as an ant in front of the White Dragon. When the White Dragon interrogated the Berserk Beast Warlord about the whereabouts of Xianpin Gate, he could only use 1% of his divine power, as he was afraid that he would accidentally kill the Berserk Beast Warlord. After investigating the whereabouts of Xianpin Gate, the White Dragon hurriedly drove his battleship back. Passing through the gate, he finally returned to the Shunwu continent. After a few twists and turns, the Tianqing battleship finally returned to the north of the Ruins of God after 5 days. Late that night, the Ruins of God was covered in clouds, and it was as gloomy as ever. The Tianqing battleship reached the peak of a barren mountain and stopped there. Whoosh! With a flash of light, the white-robed Ji Tianqing flew out of the battleship. After 10 months of secluded cultivation, his injuries had been temporarily suppressed, and his divine power had recovered significantly. He had also changed into a new set of clothes, which made him look less miserable. However, the hideous wounds that covered his entire body had yet to heal, and the injuries to his internal organs and spirit still needed to be treated. His strength and aura were also very weak. He put away the Tianqing battleship and brought out the small golden pagoda. He wanted to bring the White Dragon and the 3 divine beasts into the pagoda. When the White Dragon saw the small golden pagoda in Lu Yin's hand, it was suddenly startled, and its expression became somewhat strange. I seem to have done something stupid. The White Dragon muttered softly, and its expression was somewhat awkward. Ji Tianqing glanced at it and asked, "What stupid thing? Tell us so that we can all have some fun." The 3 divine beasts immediately became interested, and their eyes widened as they looked at the White Dragon expectantly. After all, from what they knew, the White Dragon was a very knowledgeable and cunning fellow. He had never been taken advantage of before. Now, he actually admitted that he had done something stupid. This was unheard of. The White Dragon became even more embarrassed. He smiled bitterly and said, "I should have known that Master had the secret key to the pagoda." After entering the elemental world, Master only needed to use the secret key, and we could instantly return to the pagoda. In the end, I wandered around the wild continent for 10 days, and spent a lot of effort to investigate the gate of Xianpin. Now that I think about it, the wild beast war emperor who was scared to death by me was really unlucky. Pfft. Ha ha ha. Qian Yu and the black dragon did not give him any face, and they immediately laughed out loud. Ji Tianqing also could not help but laugh softly. Even the most honest Lan Kuan could not help but laugh secretly. Seeing this scene, the white dragon explained seriously, "Everyone, don't laugh. Actually, I was just curious about the wild continent, so I did it on purpose. I wandered around the wild continent for 10 days, and I discovered many new and interesting things. Master, after you have recovered from your injuries, I will tell you all about them one by one." Ji Tianqing stopped laughing and nodded. "All right, I will believe you for now." After that, he injected his divine power into the golden pagoda. Swoosh! The golden pagoda lit up with a holy light, and it enveloped Ji Tianqing, the white dragon, and the 3 divine beasts. In the next moment, they disappeared from the peak of the barren mountain and entered the Jiutian Extremes Tower. After passing through the 5th level of the pagoda, they quickly entered the 6th level and returned to the distorted space. Chapter 26:15. For the past 5 years, the situation on Xinwu continent had stabilized. Ji Ku and Yu Niao had been cultivating in seclusion in the tower, working hard to break through to the true God realm. In their free time, the two would teach Chanshan and Yi and guide them in their cultivation. Ji Ke controlled the Jiutian Absolute's tower. When Ji Tianqing, the white dragon, and the others entered the tower, she immediately sensed them. She quickly woke Yu Niao up and went to welcome Ji Tianqing together. Over the past 2 years, she and Yu Niao had been worried and expectant, hoping day and night that Ji Tianqing would return safely. They knew that the Heaven Punishers were very powerful and had many powerhouses. Ji Tianqing had only brought the white dragon and 3 divine beasts, but he had dared to go to Zixiao planet to seek revenge on Marshal Nan. It would definitely be very dangerous. However, they did not have a divine warship, and they could only rely on their physical bodies to traverse the void, which would be even more dangerous. If anything happened, not only would their lives be in danger, but they would also cause trouble for Ji Tianqing. Moreover, the 5 Elements realm needed a protector, and they needed to stay on Xinwu continent to control the situation. Thus, the two weighed the pros and cons for a long time before deciding to stay in the tower and wait for Ji Tianqing to return. Now 5 years had passed, and Ji Tianqing had finally returned. Swoosh! Not long after, Ji Ku and Yu Niao flew over and stood in front of Ji Tianqing. The two looked at Ji Tianqing with shining eyes, sizing him up from head to toe twice. Seeing that he had returned safely, the two of them finally felt relieved and heaved a sigh of relief. "Tianqing, you're finally back." Yu Niao looked at Ji Tianqing with a gentle gaze, her clear eyes covered with a layer of mist, but her gaze was bright. Her tone was filled with surprise, as well as a sense of relief. Ji Ku also looked at Ji Tianqing emotionally and said in a choked voice, "Big brother Tianqing, it's great that you can come back safely. During the 5 years you were gone, eldest senior sister and I were worried about you. For a long time, eldest senior sister felt uneasy. Fortunately, the heavens have eyes. You're finally back." Ji Tianqing nodded his head and revealed a gentle smile as he consoled, "Back then, I left without saying goodbye because I had no choice. I've made you worry for the past 5 years. But it's all in the past. Aren't I fine now?" As he spoke, Ji Tianqing opened his arms to welcome them. He wanted to embrace Yu Niao and Ji Ku. But at this moment, a little girl dressed in a light yellow dress ran out from behind Yu Niao and happily jumped into Ji Tianqing's arms. "Father, you're finally back. Yaya has been missing you every day." The little girl was beautiful and cute. Her skin was crystal clear and delicate. Her clothes and temperament were noble and holy. She had a head of soft black hair. She had a neat fringe and 2 ponytails. She looked especially cute and playful, especially her big clear eyes. They were innocent and pure, without a trace of impurity. She jumped into Ji Tianqing's arms with joy. She wrapped her arms around Ji Tianqing's neck and buried her head in Ji Tianqing's chest intimately. Ji Tianqing's body stiffened for a moment. Then he relaxed. A big smile appeared on his face, and there was even a hint of affection. He reached out his arms and hugged the little girl. His palms gently stroked her head as he smiled and said, "It's only been 5 years since we last met. Yaya has grown taller again. This incomparably beautiful and cute little girl was Yaya. She had inherited Yunyao's beauty and temperament, as well as Ji Tianqing's brows and eyes. That was why she was so noble and cute. In the near future, when she grew up, she would definitely become a peerless beauty whose name would shake the world. At this moment, another little boy dressed in a brocade robe walked out from behind Jiku. Although he looked to be only 4 or 5 years old, he was exceptionally handsome. There was even a hint of coldness between his brows. He was as cold as an iceberg. He arrived in front of Ji Tianqing and bowed respectfully. He said in a tender voice, "This child respectfully welcomes father's return." This little adult-like boy was Chanshan Ji Wuhan. Ji Tianqing reached out a hand and held Chanshan's arm, helping him up. After carefully sizing him up, he revealed a gratified smile and nodded. "Chanshan, looks like you haven't slacked off in these 5 years. Your skills have improved again." A hint of joy flashed through Chanshan's clear eyes when he was praised. He hurriedly cupped his hands in greeting and said, "Father, you flatter me. This is all thanks to mother and second mother. It's because of their careful guidance that Chanshan can improve so much." Second mother. Ji Tianqing raised his brows, his expression somewhat strange. This form of address made him feel somewhat awkward and uncomfortable. Jiku was also somewhat embarrassed when he heard it. He turned his head away and didn't say anything. However, Yunyao was afraid that she would be embarrassed, so she explained, "Tianqing, although Chanshan and Yaya are our children, Ku is family with us. Chanshan and Yaya are also her children. She also treats them as her own. That's why I let them call her that and treat her with motherly respect." Ji Tianqing was relieved and nodded in agreement. Yaya kept hugging Ji Tianqing's neck and stayed in Ji Tianqing's arms, unwilling to let go. While everyone was talking, she opened her eyes wide and carefully observed Ji Tianqing. After everyone was done talking, she also saw some clues and immediately revealed a worried expression. "Father, how did you get hurt? Let Yaya take a look at your injuries." As she spoke, Yaya used the God's Eye secret technique to check on Ji Tianqing's injuries. In a short moment, she saw some clues and was immediately on the verge of tears. She became even more worried. "Father, your injuries are so serious. Not only is your divine body heavily injured, there are more than 200 wounds all over your body. Even your divine soul is injured? Father, which heartless scoundrel did this to you?" Although Yaya was still young and her strength was only at the tribulation realm, she had many innate talents. The God's Eye secret technique was one of them. It was inherited from Ji Tianqing. She looked at Ji Tianqing with tears in her eyes. Her cute little face was filled with concern and love. Yunyao and Jiku naturally saw that Ji Tianqing was injured and hurriedly comforted her. "Yaya, father went to the other side of the starry sky to deal with evil people on a certain planet. Although father is heavily injured, he will never be defeated. He will recover soon." Chanshan was also worried for Ji Tianqing. Her eyes were filled with anger. She clenched her fists and said firmly, "Father, although I'm young, I'm willing to lend you a hand and kill those evil people." Seeing this, Ji Tianqing hurriedly waved his hand and said with a smile, "Yai Chanshan, you don't have to worry about father. These injuries are nothing to me. Martial artists of my generation are born in a storm of blood. We will rise from the shadows of swords and blades. If we don't experience hardships and dangers, how can we become an unparalleled powerhouse and turn the world around?" Chapter 26:16. After hearing Ji Tianqing's words, Yunyao, Jiku, and Bai Long nodded in agreement. Chanshan and Yiye were intelligent and they understood what he meant. They nodded to show that they would remember what he said. The family was reunited and they chatted happily for a while before they went their separate ways. Yunyao and Jiku took the 2 children and went back to cultivate. Ji Tianqing found a secluded place and began to recuperate in seclusion. Bai Long and the 3 spiritual beasts were tired after fighting for 5 years. They went into seclusion to recuperate. When the space was distorted, silence was restored. Time was flowing at 50 times the normal speed, and it was silently passing by. Under normal circumstances, Ji Tianqing would need at least 40 years to recover from his injuries. However, he had a large number of divine elixirs and dawn stones. With the help of the divine elixirs and dawn stones, His injuries healed at an incredible speed. He estimated that he would be fully healed in a dozen years. The miraculous effects of the Dawn Stones were incredible. The happiness of having a large number of Dawn Stones was not something that others could understand. For example, the Emperor of Heaven Punishing had been drooling over the Dawn Stones for a long time. However, he could not get his hands on them. He had finally captured Ji Tianqing, but he had let Ji Tianqing slip away under his nose. For more than a year, he had been suppressing the anger in his heart, and he could not get rid of it. Even though he had broken into Purple Cloud Star and killed the martial gods of several continents in an overbearing manner. Even though the imperial tutor had led many martial gods and guards to conquer 5 continents, he had taken control of the entire Purple Cloud Star. The Emperor of Heaven Punishing was still unhappy. He had brought too few people with him to Purple Cloud Star this time. There were only the imperial tutor Fa Tian, 36 martial god realm guards, and 2,000 martial sage realm black armored soldiers. This was not enough to take control of the 5 continents. They could only take control of the leaders of the holy kingdoms and turn the leaders of the various tribes and forces into puppets. They would need a few more years to take full control of Purple Cloud Star. Of course, they would need a large number of heaven-punishing elites. The heaven-punishing Great Emperor had no choice but to summon the old subordinates of the Southern Conquering Marshal and rush to the Purple Cloud planet. Dozens of martial god realm captains and thousands of black-armored warriors were scattered around the hundreds of stars around Purple Cloud Star. When Ji Tianqing had invaded the Purple Firmament Star, killed Marshal Zhanan, and destroyed the heaven-punishing Divine Palace, these people had scattered and fled. They were scattered across the various stars. Some were hiding, while others were still killing and committing evil deeds. After receiving the order from Great Emperor Tian Fa, they were all extremely excited. They rushed to the Purple Cloud Star with anticipation. However, it would take at least a year for these captains and black-armored warriors to reach Xixiao planet. At the same time, the Great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing encountered another problem. Back then, after Marshal Nan Zhanan had occupied Purple Cloud planet, he had sent him a message to report the situation on Purple Cloud planet. The South Conquering Marshal had mentioned the Purple Heaven Cave before. He said it was the most sacred place on the Purple Heaven planet and the most mysterious secret realm. Not only was there an abundance of divine power and cultivation resources, but there was also a huge secret hidden within. Unfortunately, the South Conquering Marshal was not powerful enough and did not have enough time to explore it. Now the Great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing had occupied Purple Cloud planet. He also wanted to enter the Purple Heaven Cave to see what secrets and mysteries there were. However, something awkward happened. The Great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing could not find the Purple Heaven Cave. After racking his brains to no avail, he asked the Imperial Tutor to investigate this matter. The Imperial Tutor interrogated more than 10 leaders of powerful clans, and finally found some information. The legendary Purple Heaven Cave was the cave abode of the Purple Heaven Venerate. This secret realm was very mysterious and had a very high status. It was said that its entrance was in the endless sea of clouds above the sky. However, no one could say for sure where the entrance was. After all, the leaders of the various clans had never entered the Purple Heaven Cave. The divine masters who were qualified to enter the Purple Heaven Cave had already died in battle. They had been killed by the Heaven Punishers. The Great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing was very depressed. He asked the Imperial Tutor to take charge of the situation while he flew into the sky alone and searched the sea of clouds. The Purple Heaven planet was extremely vast. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack if he wanted to find the entrance to the Purple Heaven Cave in the endless sea of clouds. Moreover, Ji Tianqing had set up 2 great god arrays at the entrance of the Purple Heaven Cave. One was a maze array and the other was a seal array. How could the Great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing find it? Even if he spent a few years and finally found the entrance, he might not be able to break the Great God Array. 3 months passed unknowingly. 12.5 years had passed in the distorted space. Ji Tianqing had been cultivating in seclusion for so long. With the help of a large number of divine pills and origin stones, his injuries had finally healed. His divine power had recovered to its peak, and his injured divine soul had also been healed. When he ended his seclusion, Yun Yao and Ji Ku rushed over after hearing the news. The three of them gathered and began to discuss important matters. Yunyao took the lead and said, Tianxing, you were injured and urgently needed to recuperate in seclusion. We didn't ask too much. How was your trip to the Purple Heaven planet this time? Jike looked at him expectantly and asked, Brother Tianxing, who injured you? How could they injure you so badly? It shouldn't be the Southern Conquering Marshal. He definitely doesn't have the strength to do that. Ji Tianxing nodded and said, When I first arrived at the Purple Heaven planet, I was just in time for the Myriad Kingdom's sacred assembly. I found a way to sneak in and used a trick to disturb a continent. After that, I joined forces with the guardian divine beast of the Purple Heaven planet, the Golden Rock, and killed the Southern Conquering Marshal. Over 100 martial gods from various clans also fought with the Heaven Destroyers and perished together with them. It was not easy for us to chase away the heaven-punishing tribe and restore peace to the Purple Heaven planet. However, in just 3 years, the great emperor of the heaven-punishing personally led an expedition to the Purple Heaven planet. When they heard this, Jiku and Yunyao frowned. Their eyes were filled with shock. The great emperor of the heaven-punishing tribe? He was alerted? Tianxing, you fought with the great emperor of the heaven-punishing tribe. Were you injured by him? That shouldn't be. The great emperor of the heaven-punishing tribe is very ambitious. He wants to control all 3,000 worlds. Why would he pay attention to the Purple Heaven planet? Moreover, the heaven-punishing tribe is in another galaxy, very far away from the Purple Heaven planet. Even if he knew that the Southern Conquering Marshal was killed and rushed to the Purple Heaven planet to seek revenge, it shouldn't have happened so quickly. The two women were shocked and confused. Ji Tianxing nodded slightly and said seriously, The great emperor of the heaven-punishing tribe is very powerful. He has reached the half-step heavenly god stage. His spaceship is also a heavenly god grade. He has a LV6 true god stage elite with him. He is the imperial tutor of the heaven-punishing tribe. The reason he rushed to the Purple Heaven planet was not to seek revenge for the Southern Conquering Marshal, but for the Energy Stone. The Southern Conquering Marshal had already reported the news about the Energy Stone to the great emperor of the heaven-punishing tribe. I suspect that the great emperor of the heaven-punishing tribe is working for the god behind him. He wants the Energy Stone at all costs. Chapter 26:17. The great emperor of Heaven Punisher is after the Energy Stones? Even the deities behind him are interested in the Energy Stones? Yunyao and Jike's expressions darkened. Without Ji Tianxing's explanation, they knew what it meant. If that's the case, the end of the Five Elements world is coming. The great emperor of Heaven Punisher will definitely track down the Five Elements world. He will do whatever it takes to get the Energy Stones. Ji Tianxing nodded and said calmly, Even I am tempted by the incredible power of the Energy Stones, let alone the deities from the upper realm. Any deity would not give up on the Energy Stones after witnessing their miraculous power. After all, the Energy Stones are very beneficial to heavenly gods, Sir Gods and King of Gods. Jike's heart sank. She asked worriedly, Brother Tianxing, the Five Elements world is in danger now. What should we do? If the great emperor of Heaven Punisher leads his army here, how can the three of us stop him? Although Yunyao did not say anything, she had the same thought. She looked at Ji Tianxing worriedly. Ji Tianxing waved his hand, telling them not to worry. He comforted them. The great emperor of Heaven Punisher doesn't know the exact location of the Five Elements world. It will take him at least a few years to find this place. Currently, we don't have any chance of winning. We can only try our best to increase our strength. However, there are a few things that we have to clarify as soon as possible. Yunyao and Jiku asked at the same time, What is it? Ji Tianxing explained patiently. First, when I was in Purple Cloud Planet, I found a problem. All the worlds are restricted by the heavenly way. It is impossible to break through to the heavenly god realm in the mortal world, unless one ascends to the heavenly god realm. However, the Five Elements world is different. There were many deities in the ancient times. There were heavenly gods, Sir Gods and King of Gods. The cemetery of the gods in the ruins of gods is the best proof. Hearing this, Yunyao and Jiku looked at each other and realized where the problem lay. You mean the Five Elements world is not an ordinary mortal world? Big Brother Tianxing, Could it be that the five elements world is not restricted by the rules of the heavenly Tao? Ji Tianqing continued. Secondly, the source stone is a powerful god stone. It is useful to all gods, regardless of race or power attribute. If the five elements world is just an ordinary mortal world, how can it produce such a divine item like the origin stone? Yun Yao and Ji Ke's eyes lit up, and they nodded in agreement. That's right. The appearance of the origin stones further proves that the five elements world is not ordinary. Big brother Tianqing, there's one more thing. The five elements world has been sealed by the gods. There shouldn't be such a situation in other mortal worlds, right? Ji Tianqing nodded and said, Ku is right. Only the five elements world is sealed by the gods. It is the most special. Thirdly, we discovered the source of the origin stones in the geocentric ocean. At the same time, we also found a collapsed ancient temple in the depths of the geocentric ocean. It was the cave of a certain god king. There is a large formation in it that can still be used now, leading to the outer space. Yun Yao was the most intelligent, and she immediately understood what he meant. She said in a serious tone, so our target is the underground. The secret of the five elements world is most likely hidden in the depths of the geocentric ocean. Ji Tianqing smiled and nodded. That's right. I came back this time to enter the geocentric ocean and solve these mysteries. After saying that, he looked deeply at Yun Yao and asked, Yao Yao, you have inherited the memories of goddess Yaoguang. Logically speaking, Yaoguang is one of the rulers of the ancient god war. And the five elements world was sealed by the gods after the ancient god war. Think carefully, do you have any clues or suspicious points? Yun Yao shook her head gently and said regretfully, all these years, I have been thinking about these questions and trying to piece together and restore goddess Yaoguang's memories. However, those memories seem to have disappeared, and I have no recollection of them at all. All the memories related to goddess Yaoguang are all about cultivation. There are formations, alchemy, artifact forging, talismans, and so on. They are all related to the cultivation of the divine Tao. The only thing missing is the memories of the ancient god war. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said regretfully, in that case, we can only investigate from the source and unravel the mystery bit by bit. The three of them made up their minds and prepared to head to the hidden dragon abyss. Before leaving, Yun Yao found Chanshan and Yaya and told them to cultivate in peace. Ji Tianqing also told White Dragon and the three divine beasts to stay in seclusion in the God Pagoda and work hard to improve their strength. Ji Ku also sent out a few messages and gave orders to arrange the administrative affairs of the God Nation. The three of them understood that this trip to the depths of the geocentric ocean would take a long time, so they had to make arrangements first. A few hours later, the three of them left the God Pagoda and rushed to Tianqing's God Nation. In just 2 days they arrived at the north of Tianqing's God Nation and entered the hidden dragon abyss. Passing through the pitch-black abyss, the three of them quickly entered the sea of lava and arrived at the territory of the human race in the geocentric ocean. Even though more than 10 years had passed, after the human race in the geocentric ocean submitted, they did not dare to have any disloyalty and had been working diligently. They followed Ji Ke's orders and mined the origin stone mine according to a plan. Every year they had to hand over a fixed amount of origin stones. As a result, the pressure on the human race in the geocentric ocean was greatly reduced. They did not have to work too hard, but they had to complete their tasks on time. When Ji Tianqing and the other two arrived at the geocentric palace, Patriarch Baha brought the high priest and hurriedly came to greet them with a very respectful attitude. After so many years, the divine soul imprints in their bodies had not been removed, and they were still loyal to Ji Tianqing, unless Ji Tianqing took the initiative to remove the imprints or died. Otherwise, they would forever be Ji Tianqing's slaves. Ji Tianqing was very satisfied with Patriarch Baha's performance. After a few words of praise and encouragement, he left with Yun Yao and Ji Ku. Next, the three of them crossed hundreds of thousands of miles of the sea of lava and arrived at the origin stone mine. The mysterious black hole was located in the origin stone mine. Ji Tianqing and the other two unlocked the black hole's sealing array and successfully entered the black hole. Standing in the empty cave, the three of them looked at the huge, majestic ancient temple in front of them with expectant eyes. Deep underground, there is an ancient divine king's cave residence. I wonder what the five elements world of the primordial age was like? Yunyao murmured as a look of longing flashed across her eyes. Ji Tianqing smiled and said expectantly, "Let's explore this ancient temple again. I hope we can gain something." Jiku was stunned for a moment and said in a complicated tone, "Brother Tianqing, I remember that the last time I came here, Little White suddenly came up with a hypothesis." He said, "Is there such a possibility? In the ancient era, the ancient five elements world was the same as the divine realm and the dragon realm. They were all eternal primary worlds. However, due to some unknown reasons, this world had fallen to become a mortal world. At that time when Little White said this, we thought it was ridiculous. Now that I think about it, Little White's words are not without reason." Chapter 26:18. The three of them were looking forward to the true identity of the five elements world. The reason he came to explore the ancient shrine again was to unravel the mystery. Ji Tianqing led the way across the black stone plaza and walked toward the majestic ancient shrine. The shrine's two black stone doors were originally sealed by a divine array. However, Ji Tianqing had already cracked it the last time he came. He pushed open the huge and heavy stone door and led Yunyao and Jiku into the main hall on the first floor. The main hall was pitch black, and the ground was covered with dust. There were gravel and collapsed statue fragments scattered all around. Ji Tianqing walked toward the corner of the main hall and explained, "The last time we came, we already searched the first and second floors of the shrine. Unfortunately, we were teleported to the starry sky by the divine array on the second floor. This time we are going to explore the third floor of the shrine." Yunyao and Jiku nodded to show that they understood. The three of them entered the secret door in the corner of the main hall and passed through a pitch-black tunnel to reach the second floor of the shrine. The layout of the second floor was the same as the first floor. In the middle was a spacious main hall. There were several tunnels and more than 20 rooms connected to it. In the middle of the main hall was a pitch-black stone platform that was 100 meters tall. The stone platform was engraved with array patterns. Thousands of ravines formed a divine array. Last time Ji Tianqing and the others had been teleported to the starry sky by that divine array. This time Ji Tianqing did not plan to activate the divine array. He separated from Yunyao and Jiku and began to search the rooms around the main hall. Most of the rooms were tightly shut. They were like secret rooms with only one door and no windows. However, the doors of a few rooms were open. The rooms were in a mess, filled with ashes and gravel. There were also two rooms that were sealed with divine arrays. After tens of thousands of years, the divine arrays had long been weakened and did not have much power. Ji Tianqing and the others used 4 hours to search more than 20 rooms. After gathering, the three of them discussed the results of their search. "I've searched 9 rooms. There's nothing valuable. Most of the rooms were secret rooms. They were covered in dust and only had some ancient carvings and words. Even the secret room with the divine formation seal didn't have any furnishings, only some jade fragments that had been weathered into dust. I've searched 7 rooms, but I didn't find any valuable clues. Perhaps those secret rooms had once stored cultivation resources and divine stones. However, I only found a lot of gravel and piles of ashes. The results of my search are basically the same as yours. Too much time has passed, and this primordial divine temple went through a great battle. Many traces and clues have disappeared. The three of them were somewhat disappointed and could only leave the second level. In the left corner of the hall, Ji Tianqing found a secret door. He used the Divine Eye secret technique to see the divine array on the secret door. It only took him a few hours to crack it. After all, the formation on the secret door was only a heavenly god-tier formation. After opening the secret door, the three of them passed through a pitch-black tunnel and arrived at the third floor of the temple. The layout of the third floor was more or less the same as the first 2 floors. In the middle was a spacious and dark hall. There were 4 tunnels and 18 secret rooms around it. In the middle of the hall, there was still a high platform that was engraved with mysterious runes of formations. Yunyao wanted to study the divine array, but she was stopped by Ji Tianqing. "Don't worry about that divine array. It might be another teleportation formation that can send us to the void. Let's look at the secret rooms around us and see if we can find any clues." Yunyao nodded to show that she understood. The three of them split up and searched the secret rooms around the hall. Every secret room had a stone door that was tightly shut and sealed by a divine array. Ji Tianqing chose a secret room and used the divine eye secret technique to carefully observe the formation on the stone door. After half an hour, when he saw the structure of the formation clearly, he immediately frowned. This was because the ceiling formation on the stone door had tens of millions of meridians. It could generate 200 million variations. It was extremely complicated. This is not a heavenly god formation. It's clearly a godlord formation. The stone door is only a few feet tall, but the person who cast it can set up a godlord formation here. His strength and formation Dao attainments must be that of a peak godlord. He might even be a god king. Back then, Qinshan was able to set up a god king formation in a palm-sized jade slip with his strength at the god king realm. That formation had 300 million meridians and could generate 900 million variations. However, that was when he was at his peak. The current Ji Tianqing only had the strength of a true god. It was impossible for him to complete it. Even the chances of cracking the godlord formation on the stone door were slim. Yun Yao and Jiku also observed the two secret rooms. They noticed something and reminded him. Tianqing, the ceiling formation in my secret room doesn't seem to be at the heavenly god formation. Brother Tianqing, the formation in my secret room is actually at the godlord formation. In the 5 years that Ji Tianqing went to Purple Cloud Planet, the two of them had been in seclusion in the Divine Pagoda for more than 200 years. Their strength had broken through to the true God realm, and they were currently at the first level of the true God realm. However, they were helpless against the Godlord formation. They could only return to Ji Tianqing's side to discuss countermeasures. Tianqing, these secret rooms are sealed with a Godlord formation. It's obvious that there are important secrets hidden. Brother Tianqing, are you confident that you can crack the Godlord formation? Ji Tianqing shook his head and said calmly, I only have the strength of a true god. Even if I know the way to crack the Godlord formation, my strength can't reach it. Fortunately, these Godlord formations have been around for a long time and their power has weakened by 80 to 90%. If the three of us work together and use the origin stones to replenish our divine power, there should be hope. Hearing him say that, Yun Yao and Jiku revealed a look of anticipation. Their eyes glowed with hope. The two of them didn't waste any time. They worked together to cast spells to help Ji Tianqing crack the Godlord formation. With the help of the two of them, Ji Tianqing's divine power became unusually vigorous and vast. He kept casting spells to shoot divine light into the stone door. Time passed silently. Soon 2 months passed. Ji Tianqing cast spells continuously for 1,000,000 times. Finally, his divine power was exhausted. Yun Yao and Jiku's divine power was also almost exhausted. Therefore, the three of them used a large number of origin stones to quickly replenish their divine power. In a flash, another 2 months passed. Ji Tianqing used a total of 4 months to crack the Godlord formation on the stone door. After the formation dissipated, the stone door shook a few times and dust fell. Ka. Ji Tianqing reached out and pushed the heavy stone door. A strong turbid air rushed out, bringing with it rolling dust. The three of them hurriedly dodged and used divine light to protect their bodies from the corrosion of the turbid air. After the dust settled, the three of them entered the secret chamber. The secret chamber, which had a radius of 1,000 feet, was cold and pitch black. The secret chamber was empty except for a 3 feet tall pitch black stone tablet in the middle. There were no words on the stone tablet. There were only densely packed patterns on it. It was very strange. Yun Yao and Jiku stared at the stone tablet for a long time but couldn't figure it out. This is strange. Why is there a stone tablet in the secret chamber? Is there a secret technique recorded on the stone tablet? Chapter 26:19. It's not a secret technique. This is a teleportation array. Ji Tianqing stared at the black stone tablet and said calmly. Jiku looked at him in confusion and asked, Big brother Tianqing, you haven't tried it yet. How can you be so sure? Ji Tianqing's lips curled into a smile, but he didn't answer. Because there were 18 black tombstones in the Kenshin tomb. At first, there were cultivation techniques and secret techniques on the tombstones. Later, they became passageways to the Divine Weapon Pavilion, the Heavenly Book Pavilion, the Divine Medicine Pavilion, and other mystic realms. He had designed the Kenshin tomb back then. His ideas and inspiration came from some legends and secrets from the ancient times. And now, in this primordial divine palace, he had worked tirelessly to crack the monarch-grade divine array and saw a stone tablet. That was why he could guess the function of the stone tablet. Yunyao stared at the black stone tablet and asked with a frown, "Tianqing, can you guess where this stone tablet leads to?" Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and said with a smile, "Maybe it's a mystic realm. For example, the alchemy room and blacksmithing room of the temple master." Jika's eyes lit up. She said with anticipation, "If that's the case, doesn't that mean we have a chance to get a monarch-grade divine pill and a monarch-grade divine artifact? If we take a monarch-grade divine pill, our strength will increase tremendously. With a monarch-grade divine artifact, our combat power will increase by dozens of times. Then, even if the great Emperor of Heaven Punisher comes, we will be able to kill him." Before she could finish, Ji Tianqing reached out and pinched her pretty face. He chuckled and said, "How old are you? Why are you still dreaming? If it's really as you think, then you are our lucky star." With that, he waved his hand and sent a vast amount of star divine power into the pitch-black stone tablet. Swoosh! The stone tablet lit up with a starry silver light. The countless patterns on it turned silver. In the blink of an eye, the starry silver light swallowed Ji Tianqing, Yunyao and Jiku. The three of them disappeared on the spot. The secret chamber returned to silence. Swoosh! A silver light flashed. Ji Tianqing and the other two appeared on a rocky mountain out of thin air. The rock mountain was pitch black, but it was not cold. Instead, it was warm. The stone mountain had a radius of 50 kilometers, and it was filled with pure origin stone ores. The three of them looked around, and when they saw the situation clearly, they were all shocked. There was a boundless sea of magma in all directions. The red and translucent magma was slowly surging. Surging flames rose, releasing an incomparably terrifying heat. The source stone mine beneath their feet stood motionless in the sea of lava, as if it had taken root. No matter how terrifyingly hot the magma ocean was, it could not melt this origin stone mine. The red flame that was close to being transparent was the genuine earth core divine flame. Regardless of whether it was a martial god or a void god artifact, once they were enveloped by the earth core divine flame, they would be incinerated into ashes. Fortunately, Ji Tianqing and the other two were true gods. With the protection of their divine power, they could withstand the power of the earth core divine flame. Ji Tianqing looked at the source stone mine beneath his feet, and then at the magma ocean around them. He frowned and said, "This place seems to be closer to the Earth's core. The Earth core divine flame has already appeared. Even the human tribe in the Earth's core cave can't survive here. They'll definitely be incinerated into ashes." Yunyao released her divine consciousness and extended it 10,000 miles above her head. After a while, she said in surprise, "The primordial shrine that we were in earlier was 2,000 miles underground. This magma ocean is more than 10,000 miles above the ground." "More than 10,000 miles?" Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and released his divine consciousness to look up as well. After a while, there was a change in his expression. He said in surprise, "My divine consciousness can extend 30,000 miles, but it can barely touch the ground. In other words, we're now 30,000 miles underground. The teleportation formation in the primordial shrine has sent us even deeper underground." At this moment, Jiku suddenly pointed at the center of the source stone mine and said in surprise, "Big brother Tianqing, big senior sister, look, there's a shrine there too." Ji Tianqing and Yunyao quickly turned around. Indeed, there was a black stone palace that was 10,000 feet tall in the center of the source stone mine. The palace occupied 10 miles and was unusually majestic. Under the illumination of the divine flames, the ancient black shrine exuded a mysterious and majestic aura. "Let's go and take a look." Ji Tianqing led Yunyao and Jiku to the black shrine's door. The three of them observed it carefully for a long time and gradually found some clues. This was also a shrine from the primordial era. It should be the cave abode of some god. It had a history of at least 40,000 years. The black stone door of the shrine was sealed by a monarch-grade divine formation. However, too much time had passed, and the divine formation had been continuously eroded by the earth core divine flame. Its power had long been weakened to the extreme. There were many formation patterns and a simple flame symbol carved on the door of the shrine. Ji Tianqing, Yuniao, and Jiku worked together and used only 2 months to crack the monarch-grade divine formation on the door. Then, the three of them entered the shrine to investigate the situation inside. The first floor was the main hall. It was pitch black and dead silent. There was a lot of dust on the ground, and a lot of gravel and ashes were scattered everywhere. The second floor was also the main hall. There were many rooms around it. Fortunately, there were no formations in those rooms. Or perhaps there used to be formations, but they had been destroyed over the years. A day later, the three of them searched the entire shrine. They didn't find any divine weapons, divine pills, or secret techniques of the shrine. They also didn't find any valuable clues. The only thing that caught their attention was that simple and special flame symbol. It appeared more than 10 times in the shrine. The three of them came with high hopes, but they could only return with disappointment. Through the teleportation formation on the 3rd floor of the shrine, they returned to the primordial shrine 2,000 miles above ground. They were still in the same secret room. Strange, why is this primordial divine temple connected to a divine temple 30,000 miles underground? Ji Tianqing frowned and thought. He felt that something was strange. Yuniao persuaded. There are still 17 secret rooms here. Let's check them one by one. Maybe we can find some clues. Then the three of them went to the second secret room. They spent 2 months to crack the monarch-grade divine formation on the stone door. After opening the stone door, they saw a pitch-black stone tablet in the middle of the secret room. It was another stone tablet. Ji Tianqing injected his star divine power into the stone tablet. Swoosh! The stone tablet lit up with starlight and swallowed the three of them. In the next instant, the three of them appeared 30,000 miles underground and landed in a spacious cave. In the grayish-brown cave there was also an ancient and majestic shrine. It was also made of source stones. The three of them stayed in the shrine for more than a month and searched the entire shrine. They didn't find much. They only saw a strange sword symbol in the shrine. After leaving the shrine, the three of them returned to their original spot and continued to search the other secret rooms. In the next half a year they opened 3 more secret rooms. The results were the same. Every secret room had a stone tablet, which was connected to a godly palace 30,000 miles underground. Chapter 26-20. We spent more than a year to open 5 secret chambers and entered 5 primordial shrines. Every shrine is different. It is obvious that they are the abodes of different gods. However, these shrines have one thing in common, and that is, they are all 30,000 miles underground. The three of them gathered together as Ji Tianqing analyzed calmly. We don't need to waste time investigating the remaining 13 secret chambers. If I'm not mistaken, there is a stone tablet in each of the secret chambers that leads to the 13 primordial shrines. Yuniao nodded slightly and analyzed. The primordial shrine beneath our feet can be seen as a teleportation hub that connects to the 18 shrines underground. This magical relationship is similar to that of a ruler and his subjects. This shrine is the abode of the ruler, while the 18 shrines are the residences of the subjects. In the first shrine that we searched, there were many flaming symbols. Let's call that shrine the fire shrine for now. In the second shrine there were many sword-shaped symbols. Let's call it the Kenshin shrine. In the third shrine there were many tomahawk symbols. Let's call it the tomahawk shrine. Jika nodded and analyzed. This makes sense. This shrine is the abode of the king of gods. There are 18 Sir-gods under him, each with their own strengths. This proves that there were indeed many powerful gods in the 5 elements world during the primordial era. Moreover, the abodes of the King of Gods and the 18 Sir-gods were all built with dawn stones. From this, we can infer that there was an abundance of dawn stones underground during the primordial era. However, I still feel that something is strange. Why don't these gods live on the ground or in the sky? Why do they hide underground? Ji Tianqing pointed at the shrine beneath his feet and smiled. It is most likely because of the dawn stones. This is the source of their power. After saying that, he walked towards the high platform in the middle of the shrine. There is no need to investigate the 18 secret chambers anymore. Let's take a look at the teleportation divine array. As he said that, he stepped onto the high platform. He waved his palm and injected star divine power into the patterns of the divine array. Swoosh! The surging star divine power caused the patterns of the divine array to light up with starlight. It overflowed with powerful divine power waves. Soon, the ancient divine formation was activated, releasing dazzling starlight. Ji Tianqing, Yunyao, and Jiku were enveloped by the starlight and disappeared on the spot. Shua! In the next moment, the three of them appeared on a 10-mile-long black stone disc. This disc was forged from origin stones. It had a radius of 5 kilometers and was 1,000 feet thick. Its surface was covered in mottled scars. The surface of the disc was engraved with array patterns, and there were many cracks and pits on the edges, as if they were the result of a great battle. This round plate floated in midair, surrounded by boundless earth core divine flames that raged fiercely. The three of them released their divine sense and spread it out in all directions to investigate the surrounding situation. Soon the three of them understood the situation. It turned out that this was an abyss with a diameter of 100 miles. It was perfectly straight from top to bottom. The cave was like an abyss. The top of the cave led to the surface and the bottom of the cave extended underground. It was bottomless. Boundless earth core divine flame emerged from the bottom of the abyss and filled the entire cave. Its power was extremely terrifying. The 10-mile-long stone disc floated in the divine flame and endured the burning of the divine flame. Even though Ji Tianqing and the other two had divine power to protect their bodies, they still felt extremely hot. Their divine power shields were constantly melting. Without a doubt, the earth core divine flame here was even more terrifying. It had reached the level of a true god. Ji Tianqing analyzed calmly. Even the earth core divine flame 30,000 miles underground is not this powerful. It is obvious that our current location is definitely more than 30,000 miles away from the surface. Yunyao nodded in agreement and said, according to the changes in the earth core divine flame's power, we can roughly estimate that this place is at least 60,000 miles away from the surface. 60,000 miles underground? Jika's eyes widened as he exclaimed in disbelief. Since ancient times, I have never heard of anyone going 60,000 miles underground. I did not expect that there would be a divine lord cave abode 30,000 miles underground and an abyss 60,000 miles underground. This is too unbelievable. She pointed at the bottomless abyss under her feet and said in a serious tone, this abyss leads to the depths of the earth's core. It doesn't look like it was formed naturally. It looks more like it was dug by someone. Could it be that the ancient gods all lived in the depths of the earth's core? Ji Tianqing nodded and said with a smile, although it sounds absurd and overturns our common sense, it is still possible. From the current clues, it is indeed possible. Let's follow this abyss and continue to explore underground. One day we will find the answer. After he finished speaking, he was about to lead Yunyao and Jiku through the surging divine flame and towards the bottom of the abyss. Wait! Yunyao suddenly raised her hand to stop him. Yao, what's wrong? Ji Tianqing turned to look at her with a puzzled expression. Yunyao frowned and said calmly, the reason why we went underground was to prove that the 5 elements world was not ordinary. It might be one of the main worlds. Now we have found the cave abode of an ancient god, and a large number of origin stones tens of thousands of miles underground. Our conjecture has basically been confirmed. What's the purpose of going deeper into the ground? Jiku had the same thought and said, Big Brother Tianqing, we are 80% sure that the 5 elements world is not restricted by the heavenly Tao's rules and was once one of the main worlds. If we go further underground, it will be even more dangerous. Even if we find an ancient god palace in the depths of the earth's core, we might not be able to find any clues. Too much time has passed and most of the clues have disappeared. Do you think we should continue to explore underground? The abyss under their feet seemed to have no bottom. It also seemed to lead to a dark and terrifying hell. Yunyao and Jiku instinctively resisted this. Ji Tianqing understood this and explained patiently, although we have guessed the answer, we have not found any concrete evidence. Secondly, we have not found anything yet. In our current state, if the heaven-punishing emperor really comes, how are we going to stop him? Even if the chances are slim, I cannot give up. I can only continue to explore underground. I hope that the heavens will bless me and allow me to obtain some kind of opportunity that will allow me to quickly increase my strength. He paused for a moment and then said, how about this? You two return to Shinwu continent, and I will explore the abyss on my own. Before he could finish, Yun Yao and Jiku shook their heads and rejected this suggestion. Of course not. We want to go with you and face the dangers together. Big brother Tianqing, we are not afraid. We just don't want to waste our efforts. Since you have made up your mind, we will do our best to help you. Ji Tianqing tried to persuade them, but Yun Yao and Jiku were stubborn and insisted on going with him. Thus, the three used their divine power to protect their bodies and continued to explore underground. Chapter 26-21. The bottomless pit was indeed bottomless. Ji Tianqing and the other two spent several hours to explore more than 20,000 kilometers, but they still hadn't reached the bottom of the abyss. Just as they had guessed, this bottomless pit led to the Earth's core. As the trio got closer to the Earth's core, the pressure on them increased. The power of the Earth core divine flame was also increasing. Their divine power shields were quickly melted by the divine flames. They had to expend large amounts of divine power to resist the corrosion of the Earth core divine flame and protect themselves. Finally, they had dived 30,000 kilometers. They were at least 90,000 kilometers from the surface. This was a mysterious and dangerous zone that no one had ever reached since the ancient era. Another pitch-black origin stone disk appeared in front of the trio and floated quietly in the divine flames. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing and the other two landed on the disk that was 10 miles wide and looked around. The dark red earth core divine flame was still everywhere. The pitch-black cave walls were smooth and flat. They could vaguely see traces of excavation. There is an ancient divine temple 3,000 kilometers underground. There is a divine lord cave 30,000 kilometers underground. There is a bottomless pit and an origin stone disk 60,000 kilometers underground. 90,000 miles underground, there is also a similar disk. Ji Tianqing muttered to himself as he furrowed his brows and pondered. Yun Yao observed for a moment and said, this disk is not different from the 160,000 kilometers underground. The only difference is that the Earth core divine flame here is more violent and powerful. Jiku hesitated and suggested, Brother Tianqing, senior sister, let's not go too deep underground. Let's study these two disks first. Yun Yao nodded in agreement. Ji Tianqing was also curious. He waved his hand and sent a vast amount of star power into the disk under his feet. Swoosh! Dark silver star divine power flowed through the formation's cracks and spread rapidly. Not long after, the disk with a radius of 5 kilometers was filled. The ancient divine formation was activated and lit up with brilliant starlight. Swoosh! A burst of dazzling starlight flashed. 36 silver light gates appeared out of thin air on the disk, forming a circle around the edge of the disk. There is indeed a mystery behind this. Ji Tianqing's eyes lit up, revealing a look of joy. Yun Yao and Jiku were also rather excited as they observed the 36 light doors with burning eyes. These light gates seem to be teleportation gates. I wonder where these portals lead to. As the two of them discussed, they revealed curious expressions. Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and walked towards a light door. Wait for me here. I'll go take a look myself. If anything happens, I will use the origin stone jade slip to contact you. Yun Yao and Jiku were worried and wanted to explore with him. But since he insisted, the two women could only agree. Shua! Ji Tianqing stepped into the 10-meter-tall light gate, and his figure immediately disappeared. Yun Yao and Jiku stood on the circular plate and waited patiently, while circulating their energy to resist the corrosion of the Earth's core divine flame. Time passed quietly. The two of them were filled with worry and felt that time was passing very slowly. Unknowingly, 2 hours had passed. Ji Tianqing still did not appear. Nor did he send a message. Yun Yao and Jiku gradually could not suppress the worry in their hearts. They wanted to send a message to Ji Tianqing to ask about the situation. Just as the two of them were filled with worry and hesitation, the light gate suddenly lit up. Shua! With a flash of silver light, Ji Tianqing passed through the light gate and returned to the circular plate. Seeing that he had returned safely, Yun Yao and Jiku heaved a sigh of relief. They quickly went up to him and asked about the results. Tianqing, are you hurt? Brother Tianqing, are you okay? Did you find out the results? Ji Tianqing nodded and said with a smile, this light gate is indeed a teleportation gate. It sent me to an ancient shrine. That ancient shrine is also the cave abode of a divine lord. It's on the same level as us, 90,000 miles below ground. Yun Yao and Ji Ku nodded and revealed an expression of understanding. It's just as I guessed. Brother Tianqing, did you find any clues in the shrine? Not really. Ji Tianqing shook his head and said with disappointment, the shrine is too old. There are only ashes, dust, and some gravel left inside. After that, Ji Tianqing stepped into the second light gate. This time, he disappeared again for 2 hours before returning. When he returned to the circular plate, he did not wait for Yun Yao and Ji Ku to ask and took the initiative to say, this light gate also leads to an ancient shrine, which is the cave abode of a divine lord. It's also 90,000 miles below ground. If I'm not wrong, this circular plate is equivalent to a transit station. Those 36 light gates are connected to the cave abodes of 36 divine lords. Yun Yao's eyes lit up and said, if that's the case, the circular plate 60,000 miles below ground is also a transit station. It's connected to many divine lords' cave abodes? Ji Ku frowned and said with a strange expression, the divine lords of the ancient era are actually digging underground like rats. They're even connected to each other. They live in groups. Brother Tianqing, have we barged into a rat's nest? No, we've barged into a divine king's palace. There are so many divine lords' cave abodes here. In the divine world, divine monarch and divine king realm experts aren't easily seen. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said in a serious tone, the divine realm is vast and boundless. There are hundreds of regions and each region has hundreds of divine kingdoms. Each divine kingdom ruled over billions of deities. Only a divine lord powerhouse could control a divine kingdom. As for divine kings, there are only a few in each region. From this, it can be seen how rare divine lords and divine kings are. He pointed at the 36 light gates on the circular plate and said with a frown, but here we found a divine king's palace. Following the clues, we found several dozen divine lords' palaces. One can imagine that this region should be that divine king's territory. If the five elements world was once the same as the divine realm, both being eternal primary worlds, then under the five elements world's underground, there must be countless ancient divine palaces hidden. Hearing up to here, Yun Yao could not resist opening her mouth to ask, Tianqing, then are we still continuing to explore? Ji Tianqing nodded his head without hesitation and said, of course. I want to see how many divine lords there are under this divine king powerhouse's command. Ji Ku frowned and said, but brother Tianqing, this place is 90,000 miles underground. The power of the earth core divine flame is already comparable to a third-level true god realm. If we continue to go down, the power of the earth core divine flame will become even stronger. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and consoled, no matter, we can't resist it. But the sword of burial of heaven doesn't fear being burned by the divine flames. As he said, he took out the sword of burial of heaven and brought Yun Yao and Ji Ku into the sword world. After that, the sword of burial of heaven passed through the surging divine flames and continued flying downwards. Chapter 26-22. The burial of heaven sword was forged from dawn stones. In terms of material and grade, it was comparable to a heavenly god artifact. A true god-level earth core divine flame couldn't hurt it at all. In a short 4 hours, it had dived 30,000 miles and landed on a pitch-black round plate. In the abyss 20,000 miles underground, there was also a round plate made from dawn stones. Another transit station that connects to many Sir God's cave dwellings? This thought flashed across the minds of Ji Tianqing and the other two at the same time. Swoosh! A white light flashed. Ji Tianqing left the world in the sword and landed on the round plate to observe carefully. The earth core divine flame here was several times more powerful, comparable to a level 6 true god's divine power. Even Ji Tianqing had to use all his strength to resist the burning of the divine flame. He couldn't stay here for long. Even if he stood on the round plate and did nothing, it was equivalent to fighting with a level 6 true god expert. His divine power was draining rapidly. He didn't waste any time and hurriedly released his star divine power and injected it into the round plate. Swoosh! The round plate lit up with starlight and the ancient divine array was activated very quickly. Swoosh! Following a burst of dazzling starlight, 73 dazzling light gates appeared on the round plate. Among them, 72 light gates were only 30 feet tall. They were distributed at the edge of the round plate and formed a circle. In the middle of the round plate, there was a light gate that was 100 feet tall standing alone. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and a look of surprise flashed across his eyes. There are 73 teleportation gates in this transit station? According to previous experience, the 72 light gates should be connected to 72 Sir God's halls. There are 18 Sir God's halls 30,000 miles underground and 36 Sir God's halls 90,000 miles underground. There are 72 here. How many Sir Gods are there under this God King's command? Isn't this too exaggerated? Back then, he was the King of Gods, a peak God King, one of the strongest experts in the divine world. Even so, there were only 30 to 50 Sir Gods under his command. As for this ancient godly king's subordinates, they had already discovered that there were more than 100 godly lords. How could Ji Tianqing not be shocked? He even couldn't help but guess exactly how formidable that ancient God King was. At this moment, Yunyao reminded him via voice transmission. Tianqing, this place is dangerous. Don't stay here for too long. Ji Tianqing hurriedly collected his thoughts and replied via voice transmission, I understand. I won't waste my time exploring the 72 doors of light. However, the light gate in the middle of the disc is larger than the other light gates. It's obviously special. I have to go take a look. As he spoke, he held the sword of burial of heaven and flew towards the tall door of light. Shua! When he arrived at the 30-meter tall door of light, he stepped in without hesitation. With a flash of silver light, he and the sword of burial of heaven were swallowed up. In the next instant he crossed tens of thousands of miles of space and appeared in an ocean of lava. Boom! The boundless earth core divine flame instantly engulfed Ji Tianqing. The power of the Earth's core divine flame here was more than 10 times stronger than before. Its color had also turned from red to purple, becoming a purple flame. Kacha kacha, Ji Tianqing's divine light shield was burned by the purple divine flame and immediately cracked. It quickly melted and dissipated. T. It's the Earth's core divine flame of the heavenly god Tyr. He cursed in his heart as this thought flashed through his mind. His divine light shield was about to dissipate, and his divine body was about to be destroyed by the Earth's core divine flame. At this critical moment, he did not hesitate to enter the sword of burial of heaven. Shua! After entering the sword's world, he escaped the disaster and the pressure on him was greatly reduced. Yunyao and Ji Ku quickly flew over and asked about the situation with concern. Tianqing, are you hurt? Big brother Tianqing, what's the situation outside? Ji Tianqing waved his hand, indicating that they did not need to worry. He explained, I didn't expect the Earth's core divine flame here to reach the heavenly god Tyr. According to my estimation, this place is at least 150,000 miles away from the surface. With our strength, if we don't have the protection of a heavenly god weapon, we won't be able to move around here. We'll be burned to ashes very quickly. Yunyao and Ji Ku were shocked and said in disbelief, there's actually such a terrifying place in the Five Elements world? Now we can be sure that the Five Elements world was definitely the main world in the past. At this moment, the burial of heaven's voice rang in Ji Tianqing's mind. This should be 180,000 miles underground. The bottomless pit ends here. Further down is the true core of the earth. There are no rocks here. It's all magma. We've finally reached the bottom of the abyss. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and used his divine sense to merge with the burial of heaven. He used the burial of heaven as his eyes to observe the situation around him. He saw a pitch-black dawn stone mine below. It had a radius of 900 miles. Surrounding the dawn stone mine was a boundless sea of magma with purple divine flames rising into the sky. In the entire sea of magma, there was nothing other than the dawn stone mine. Above the dawn stone mine was the cave entrance that had a radius of 100 miles. It was the mysterious bottomless pit. It's really the end. Ji Tianqing muttered and used his divine sense to search the Dawn Stone mine. Soon he discovered that in the middle of the Dawn Stone mine on the highest slope, there was a majestic and ancient temple. Another divine palace? Ji Tianqing's eyes lit up, revealing a look of anticipation. He controlled the burial of heaven and hurriedly flew toward the temple. Swoosh! The burial of heaven passed through the purple flames and quickly flew to the entrance of the ancient temple. The ancient temple was 10,000 feet tall and took up an area of 30 miles. It was exceptionally majestic and magnificent. Two black stone doors that were 1,000 feet tall exuded a majestic aura that could suppress heaven and earth. It was ancient and mysterious. Ji Tianqing thought to himself, judging from the size and aura of this temple, it should be a deity king's palace. Moreover, it was even more sacred and solemn than the deity king's palace that was 3,000 miles underground. If the deity king's palace that we found at the beginning was only a deity king's residence, then this temple in front of us must be the deity king's abode and lair. Ji Tianqing muttered to himself, his heart filled with anticipation and excitement. However, when he saw the sealing array on the black stone doors, he immediately withered. It was as if a basin of cold water had been poured over his head. His excitement and anticipation vanished like smoke in thin air. A deity king level sealing array? Haha, I didn't guess wrongly. This is the deity king's lair. Ji Tianqing laughed bitterly, somewhat helpless. Yun Yao and Ji Ku also frowned, a strong sense of helplessness welling up in their hearts. Even if it was a damaged deity king level array, the three of them had to work together and use all their strength to crack it. As for a deity king level array, don't even think about it. There was no chance of cracking it at all. What do? We finally found the source. We can't return empty-handed, right? It's a deity king level array. Unless Big Brother Tianqing recovers to his peak, then we can crack it. Yun Yao and Ji Ku discussed, both helpless and unwilling. Ji Tianqing refused to give up. He still used his God's Eye secret technique to carefully observe the deity king level array on the stone doors. The three of them were silent for a long time. Chapter 26-23. Suddenly, Burial of Heaven's voice sounded in Ji Tianqing's mind. Don't be discouraged. We still have a chance. Although the king-grade divine array is powerful, you should be able to find a way to break it with your knowledge and experience. Moreover, this divine array has been around for tens of thousands of years. It has been corroded by the Earth's core divine flame and has not been repaired. Its power has long been reduced to less than 10%. Ji Tianqing said calmly, even if its power has been reduced by 95%, it is still a king-grade divine array. How can we break it? Burial of Heaven said playfully, even if the three of you work together with my strength, it is impossible to break it. However, we don't have to break it. We can choose to destroy it. Destroy it? Ji Tianqing's eyes lit up as he vaguely understood something. Burial of Heaven continued to persuade him, as long as you are willing to sacrifice yourself, there is still a chance to break this seal. Haven't you always kept the space-time roulette? That is a genuine king-grade divine artifact. Although the space-time roulette was destroyed by the combined efforts of several godly kings when you died, it did not collapse. But it hasn't been destroyed yet, and it can still help you. It is up to you whether you are willing to give it up. After saying that, Burial of Heaven fell silent and stopped persuading him. Ji Tianqing also fell silent as he weighed the pros and cons. Back then he had relied on the space-time roulette to break the seal of the Five Elements world and ascend to the Dragon Realm. During the Great War of the Gods 1,000 years ago, the space-time roulette had been destroyed by several godly kings. However, he had kept this king-grade divine artifact in the Yang tomb. He had even fantasized that he would be able to repair the space-time roulette when he returned to the godly king realm. However, it seemed that recovering to the godly king realm was still far away. The problem in front of him was urgent. Without an opportunity, it would be very difficult for him to increase his strength quickly. Soon, the great Emperor of Heaven Punishing would lead an army to attack him. He would definitely be defeated. At that time, he might not even be able to protect the Five Elements world. However, Ji Tianqing could not be sure if there was an opportunity in this ancient godly king's palace. On one side was the king-grade divine artifact that could be repaired many years later. On the other side was the problem in front of him and the slim opportunity. How should he choose? Ji Tianqing weighed the pros and cons for a few breaths before he made a decision. Let me observe this king-grade divine formation first. If I can find a flaw in it, I will sacrifice the space-time roulette and take a gamble. If you can't understand this divine formation, then nothing will be of any use. Burial of Heaven reminded him in a timely manner. Even though I'm forged from origin stones, my methods are still very crude. I haven't truly reached the heavenly god tier. I have to endure the constant burning of the earth core divine flame, and I can only last for a year at most. After a year I might be deformed, damaged and weakened, Ji Tianqing said firmly. Then let's set a deadline of 1 year. With that, he used his God's Eye secret technique and focused on studying the king-grade divine array. As he observed the divine formation, he racked his brain to compare it with the king-grade divine formations in his memories. Time passed silently. Yun Yao and Jiku waited patiently, not wanting to disturb him. Unknowingly, half a year had passed. Ji Tianqing thoroughly observed the king-grade divine formation on the stone door, and he also searched through the king-grade divine formations in his memories. However, he did not find a corresponding way to break it. He was somewhat disappointed, but he was still unwilling to give up. He continued to observe and think. He even combined several king-grade divine formations at the same time, and compared them with the divine formation on the stone door. 7 months, 8 months, 9 months went by. On a certain day in the 10th month, Ji Tianqing finally made a new discovery. He combined 4 king-grade divine formations and analyzed the structure of the formation. He finally found a way to break it. I understand now. The king-grade divine formation on this stone door actually contains the variations of the heavenly jade, heavenly pivot, heavenly chariot, and heavenly leader divine formations. To be more precise, the 4 king-grade divine formations that I know are all derived from this divine formation. Time passed and the era was changing. A king-grade divine formation from the primordial age, after being dismantled and perfected by later generations of godly kings, could actually evolve into many king-grade divine formations. This was the manifestation of the improvement of the divine Tao. Ji Tianqing was wild with joy when he finally found a way to break it. Yun Yao and Jiku were also relieved. They revealed gratified and pleasantly surprised smiles. Ji Tianqing did not waste any more time. He hurriedly rushed to the depths of the sword world and took out the broken space-time wheel from the Yang tomb. There were only 2 peerless divine items sealed in the Yang tomb: a drop of godly king blood and a space-time wheel. The godly king blood had long been refined by Ji Tianqing. Now that the space-time wheel had been taken out, the Yang tomb was completely useless. It gradually collapsed and dissipated. The space-time wheel was a compass the size of a wash basin. It was cast from ancient bronze, and its surface was black and white. It was like yin and yang. The surface of the compass was full of divine runes and cracks. There were even a few gaps. Now it was dim and lifeless, as if covered in a layer of dust. It looked simple, clumsy, and very ordinary. Only Ji Tianqing knew that this was a genuine king-grade artifact. When it was in perfect condition, it had once illuminated the heavens and intimidated the myriad of worlds. He held the broken space-time wheel with both hands and murmured with emotion, "Old friend, you helped me rise and ascend in my previous life. You also accompanied me in conquering the heavens and slaughtering gods. But now I have to sacrifice you in exchange for unknown opportunities and secrets. I don't know whether this is the right thing to do, but I have no other choice." With that, Ji Tianqing circulated his energy and forced out a drop of dark golden divine blood. He dripped it on the space-time wheel. This drop of golden divine blood was the godly king blood that he had condensed 20% of his blood energy. It was enough to awaken the power of the space-time wheel. Swoosh! In an instant, the simple and dark space-time wheel lit up with dazzling 5-colored divine light. The surface of the wheel also released black and white divine light. It emitted earth-shattering space-time divine power, as if it could break through all space and stop the flow of time. The power of a king-grade divine weapon was displayed at this moment. Although this might very well be its final glory. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing cast out the space-time wheel, causing it to transform into a black and white light that entered the stone door. Under his mental control, the black and white light shrunk 100,000 times and flowed along the king-grade divine array. A moment later, the black and white light entered a small array node and stopped. That array node was the key to breaking the divine array. In order to avoid being injured, Ji Tianqing drove the burial of heaven away from the temple and retreated to the magma sea thousands of miles away. Then, he used his mind to control the space-time wheel and self-destructed. Inside the king-grade divine array on the stone door, the black and white light hidden in the deepest part suddenly exploded. In an instant, the nodes of the array formation exploded, and a destructive divine power spread out, destroying millions of array formation veins. Boom! In the next moment, a 5-colored divine light burst out from the 1,000-foot-tall stone gate, and an earth-shattering sound rang out. Extremely violent and destructive shockwaves spread out like a huge wave, sweeping across thousands of miles. The tall black stone door was blown to smithereens on the spot. The burial of heaven thousands of miles away was also blown away by the shockwaves and fell into the magma sea hundreds of miles away. Chapter 26-24. The space-time roulette no longer existed, and the door of the temple had turned into gravel and dregs, scattering in front of the door. The smoke and dust that covered the sky lasted for a long time before dissipating. In the sea of magma thousands of miles away, the sword of burial of heaven struggled for a while before it escaped from the sea of magma and flew back into the air. The divine sword that was as black as ink had been burned red and was emitting a terrifying heat. Fortunately, the sword of burial of heaven escaped in time. If it had been delayed for a few more hours, the sword would have been melted and deformed, and its power would have been greatly reduced. We did it. Although we sacrificed the space-time roulette, the door is open. The voice of the sword of burial of heaven sounded in Ji Tianqing's mind. Its voice was a little weak. It was obviously injured by the explosion of the space-time roulette. Ji Tianqing asked with concern, "Burial of heaven, how is your situation? Can you still hold on?" The sword of burial of heaven pretended to be relaxed and said, "Of course. You still have 2 months. Don't worry and go." Ji Tianqing did not say anything else. He used his mind to control the sword of burial of heaven and flew toward the source stone mine in the distance. Swoosh! A moment later, the sword of burial of heaven passed through the door filled with smoke and dust and entered the ancient temple. The light in the temple was dim, and it was dead silent. The ground was covered in dust. The earth core divine flame outside spread to the entrance of the temple, but it was blocked by a mysterious force and could not enter the temple. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing, Yunyao, and Ji Kual left the sword of burial of heaven and appeared in the temple. Anyway, the earth core divine flame could not corrode this temple, so they were safe. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The three of them stepped across the dark floor, stepped on the thick dust, and walked toward the center of the temple. The temple, with a radius of 10,000 feet, was empty all around. There were only 12 huge pillars supporting the dome. The surrounding walls were carved with many ancient reliefs and dozens of words from the ancient era. Even with Ji Tianqing's experience and knowledge, he could not recognize those words. Only those abstract and crude reliefs could provide the three of them with references and simple clues. No matter what era it was, no matter how developed martial arts were, images would always be the easiest way to communicate. Ji Tianqing and the other two carefully observed for an hour before they finished looking through all the reliefs in the hall. Through those reliefs, they also learned a lot of useful information. This included the way of life and cultivation in ancient times. Sure enough, as the three of them expected, this region was really the territory of a certain unparalleled divine king. That deity king used his great divine ability to open up a tunnel that was hundreds of thousands of miles deep underground, connecting the surface to the Earth's core. With this bottomless tunnel as the center, the vast underground area in all directions was under the jurisdiction of the God King. There were more than 100 Sir Gods under the divine king. Through the few black discs in the abyss, one could enter the territories of the various Sir Gods. Every divine lord had tens of thousands of people under his command, and all of them were divine spirits with extraordinary abilities. Everyone lived deep underground and treated the black origin stones as food. as well as resources to cultivate and become stronger. Every few years or decades, the people under the Divine King would hold a grand sacrificial ceremony to express their faith in the Divine King and their longing and desire for the endless sea of lava. They did not believe in the heavens or the earth. They only yearned for the mysterious sea of lava, believing that it was the source of power. The people under the Divine King were also divided into ranks. According to the strength of their cultivation, they were divided into different ranks. The higher the rank of the people, the closer they lived to the sea of lava at the Earth's core. On the other hand, the further the people lived from the sea of lava, the lower their status. What kind of power is hidden in the sea of lava at the Earth's core that the gods worship and yearn for it so much? Ji Tianqing muttered to himself, frowning as he pondered. Yunhao said thoughtfully, as we expected, the ancient gods really did live underground, and there was a strict hierarchy that formed a complete nation. Ji Ke thought about it for a moment, and then a glint flashed across his eyes. He asked expectantly, with that bottomless pit as the center, the Divine King's territory is in a radius of hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Many Divine Kings appeared in the five elemental world during the ancient era. Where are the territories of those Divine Kings? They should be deep underground, right? As long as we can find other bottomless pits, we can find the territories of other Divine Kings. Ji Tianqing collected his thoughts and nodded. Ke's words make sense. The five elemental world during the ancient era was not limited to just one Divine King. What we have seen so far is only the tip of the iceberg. Let's call the divine spirits that live in this area the ancients. Aside from the ancients, there are many more secrets hidden in the depths of the Shenwu continent, waiting for us to discover them. Now let's see what secrets are hidden in the cave of the ancients' Divine King. As he spoke, he led Yunhao and Ji Ke to a corner of the hall. There was a secret door in the left corner of the hall, and behind it was a pitch-black staircase that connected to the second level of the temple. The three of them carefully climbed the stairs and quickly arrived at the second level. The layout of the second level was familiar to the three of them. There was a wide hall in the middle, and there were 6 rooms around it. The three of them split up and quickly investigated the 6 pitch-black rooms. They had originally thought that the rooms were used for secluded cultivation, and that there would be powerful divine formations set up within them. Or perhaps, there were stone tablets hidden in the rooms that led to the various divine lords' temples. But in reality, the 6 rooms did not have any sealing divine formations or stone tablets. They were actually pill refinement rooms, tool refinement rooms, study rooms, and secret rooms used to practice formations. It was obvious that the Divine King had used these rooms exclusively. It was a pity that the remaining pills, talismans, and tool refinement materials in the rooms had long since been cleaned out or turned to dust. Ji Tianqing and the other two's efforts were in vain, and they could only return to the hall. They could only place their hopes on the platform in the middle of the hall. The platform was 100 meters tall and had a radius of 1,000 feet, and it was engraved with densely packed runes of a formation. Ji Tianqing scanned the runes with his divine sense and discovered that there were as many as 600 million runes. They were very complex and profound. Moreover, these runes were very strange. He had never seen them before, and they did not seem to be the work of the ancient Divine King. Strange, why would such a strange divine formation be set up here? Could it be that the ancient Divine King learned it from other experts? Ji Tianqing frowned as he pondered. He stared at the runes of the formation beneath his feet and fell into deep thought. Suddenly, a thought flashed across his mind, and he felt a sense of familiarity. He recalled the mysterious formation that was covered by the chaotic fog in Kenshin's tomb, and his body trembled. I see. No wonder I felt a sense of familiarity. I feel like I've seen it somewhere before. Ji Tianqing exclaimed as he clenched his fists in excitement. His face was full of anticipation. Chapter 26-25. A long time ago, Ji Tianqing discovered that there was a mysterious formation in Kenshin's tomb. However, that divine formation had always been shrouded by chaotic fog. Even after he became stronger and used powerful sword techniques to break through the fog bit by bit, but he could only see the tip of the iceberg, unable to see the whole picture. Only after he recovered Kenshin's memories did he understand what was going on. That was the heaven-vanquishing formation that he obtained in the God realm, as a divine king after a bloody battle in an incomparably dangerous secret realm. It was said that it was the highest secret of the God realm, a peerless treasure that countless divine kings would go crazy for. If anyone could understand the heaven-vanquishing formation, they would have the chance to discover the secret of immortality. The gods of the God realm were said to be omnipotent, plucking stars and plucking the moon was a cinch. However, even the strongest divine kings could only live for a few 100,000 years. But they could not escape the shackles of the cycle of life and death, eventually dying of old age and death. Therefore, immortality was only a legend. It was also the most unattainable dream of countless divine kings and gods. Because of this, when news of the heaven-vanquishing formation spread, it caused a sensation in the God realm. Countless divine kings went crazy for it, risking their lives to snatch it. Kenshin went through a near-death experience, fighting with countless powerful divine kings, and finally obtained the heaven-vanquishing formation. However, he helplessly discovered that he could not understand the heaven-vanquishing formation at all. The mysterious heaven-vanquishing formation did not seem to be an item of the God realm, containing supreme power, but also extremely complex and profound. Kenshin could not comprehend the heaven-vanquishing formation's mysteries, but had to endure the pursuit and siege of various divine kings. But he would rather endure great danger than hand over the heaven-vanquishing formation. Even if he was about to die, he would seal the heaven-vanquishing formation in Kenshin's tomb. To put it bluntly, the heaven-vanquishing formation was closely related to Kenshin's death. In this life, after Ji Tianqing awakened his memories, he hid this matter in the bottom of his heart and did not mention it to anyone. He had long made up his mind to study the heaven-vanquishing formation's mysteries when he was strong enough in the future. But he didn't expect that, while he was still in the Five Elements world and had yet to ascend to the God realm, he once again saw an array that was very similar to the heaven-punishing array. That was right. The ancient formation on the high platform was very similar to the heaven extermination formation. Regardless of whether it was the structure of the formation or the connections of the formation, it was full of mysteries and contained the grand Tao of heaven and earth. It had a supreme majesty. Ji Tianqing was certain that this was absolutely not a grand array that a divine king powerhouse could set up. The grade of the array formation also far surpassed divine king level. At this time, Yunyao and Jiku both looked at Ji Tianqing and asked expectantly, "Tianqing, where have you seen this kind of formation before?" "Big brother Tianqing, what kind of formation is this? A teleportation array?" Ji Tianqing's recollection was interrupted, so he collected his thoughts and answered seriously, "Back in the God realm, I used all my means and methods to snatch a heaven-punishing formation diagram from an ancient ruin, which provoked countless god kings to hunt me down. It was said that the heaven-punishing formation diagram was a supreme divine item in the God realm, and it contained the profound mystery of immortality. I tried to decipher that formation diagram, but I couldn't understand it at all. I didn't expect to see a similar formation in this primordial shrine." After hearing this, Yunyao and Jiku were extremely shocked, and their faces were filled with disbelief. "What? Heaven-punishing formation diagram? The profound mystery of immortality? This formation is actually the same as the heaven-punishing formation diagram? How is that possible?" Yunyao knew nothing about the heaven-punishing formation diagram. Jiku, on the other hand, knew it very well. After all, she had followed Kenshin and participated in the Great War, which ended with her death. She also knew very well that the heaven-punishing formation diagram was one of the reasons that led to the Great War of the Gods and Kenshin's death. That was why she was so shocked. Ji Tianqing nodded solemnly, pointed at the formation beneath his feet, and said, "Although this formation has 600 million meridians and looks very complicated, it is actually just a small part of the formation. In reality, this is only a small part of the formation. It's not complete. My guess is that the ancient race's king of gods must have obtained this incomplete formation somewhere, and copied it down to study and decipher it." Yunyao and Jiku both nodded in agreement. "Since you didn't manage to decipher the heaven-punishing formation diagram back then, it's unlikely that the ancient race's king of gods could have mastered this formation." Jiku recalled and asked thoughtfully, "Big brother Tianqing, I vaguely remember you saying that the heaven-punishing formation diagram wasn't complete. That was why you couldn't decipher it. The formation in front of us is also incomplete. Do you think it's possible that this incomplete formation is also a part of the heaven-punishing formation diagram? A bright light flashed in Ji Tianqing's eyes when he heard this. That's right. Kuka's words make sense. It's indeed possible. I'll memorize this incomplete formation now, and see if it can be combined with the heaven-punishing formation diagram, Ji Tianqing said excitedly. He stared at the incomplete formation beneath his feet, and observed the formation structure and meridians seriously. Yunyao and Jiku remained silent and didn't disturb him. Unknowingly, for hours had passed. Ji Tianqing stood in the incomplete formation like a stone statue. He observed the formation attentively and memorized the direction of every meridian. Yunyao and Jiku quietly left the high platform and searched around the hall. Not long after, the two of them found a secret door in the corner of the hall. Since Ji Tianqing was still studying the incomplete formation, the two of them waited patiently. 8 hours later, Ji Tianqing finally memorized the incomplete formation. A total of 600 million meridians of the formation were intertwined to form billions of formation nodes. They formed an extremely complicated incomplete formation. However, he had memorized every meridian and node in his divine soul. It was incomparably clear and would never be forgotten. Only he who had the strength of a true God, an eidetic memory, and a powerful divine soul, could memorize this incomplete formation clearly. If it were other true gods, they wouldn't be able to do it. Ji Tianqing took out the burial of heaven sword and chopped the high platform into pieces, destroying the incomplete formation. In this way, besides him, Yunyao, and Jiku, there wouldn't be a fourth person who could see the incomplete formation left behind by the ancient race's supreme being. After that, the three of them went through the secret door in the corner of the hall, and followed the dark stairs to the third level of the temple. The layout of the third level was very strange. There was only a huge hall with a radius of 10 miles. It was surrounded by pitch-black walls. There was a huge magma pool in the middle of the hall. It was filled with dark red magma with purple earth core divine flames rising from it. As soon as Ji Tianqing and the other two entered the hall, their protective divine light was burned by the earth core divine flames. They felt piercing pain all over their bodies. At the critical moment, Ji Tianqing hurriedly took out the burial of heaven sword, and brought Yunyao and Jiku into the sword's world. With the protection of the burial of heaven sword, the three of them could stay in the hall. Ji Tianqing's divine sense merged with the burial of heaven sword. Using the burial of heaven sword as his eyes, he observed the situation in the magma pool. Soon he saw a basin-sized dark golden light floating in the middle of the magma pool. It emitted powerful divine power waves and suppressed the boiling magma pool. Chapter 26-26. After tens of thousands of years, there is still a pool of lava here, and its power is still as violent as ever. That ball of golden light in the middle of the lava pool still hasn't been extinguished. Ji Tianqing stared at the dark golden ball of light in the lava pool, and his heart was filled with anticipation. It must be a godly king-level divine item. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been preserved for tens of thousands of years. This thought flashed through his mind, and he released his divine sense to carefully investigate the lava pool and the ball of dark golden light. An hour later, he finally understood. The reason why the lava pool was filled with lava and churned endlessly with violent power was because of a godly king-level divine item. This was because the magma pool was a godly king formation. It was connected to the boundless magma ocean, and would constantly devour the magma. As long as the sea of lava existed, this lava pool would always be full. As for that ball of dark golden light, it wasn't some divine pill or divine weapon. It was really just a ball of light. However, it was a godly king-level ball of light. Its power was divine, majestic, violent, and domineering. It could suppress the lava pool and absorb the power of the sea of lava, and it would never dry up. Ji Tianqing was pleasantly surprised. This should be a ball of light condensed by a godly king of the ancient race. Since it's stored on the third floor of the temple, its importance is no less than that mysterious incomplete formation. Ji Tianqing made up his mind that he had to get his hands on that ball of light. He, Yunyao, and Jiku had wasted a few years and used all their methods and efforts. How could they return empty-handed? However, how to get that ball of light was a big problem. Burial of Heaven, lend me a hand. Ji Tianqing quickly came up with an idea. He let the Burial of Heaven pass through the raging earth core divine flame and fly to the middle of the lava pool. The Burial of Heaven arrived above the dark golden ball of light and floated in the earth core divine flame. Ji Tianqing released his majestic divine power and used the Burial of Heaven to execute a capturing technique. Swoosh! A huge golden dragon claw flew out of the sword of Burial of Heaven and grabbed at the dark golden ball of light. However, the golden light dragon claw was only halfway there when it was incinerated by the violent earth's core divine flame. It turned into specks of golden light and dissipated. Ji Tianqing frowned helplessly. There was nothing he could do about it. The earth core divine flame in the lava pool had reached the 6th or 7th level of the heavenly god realm. The divine technique he used could not withstand the burning of the divine flames at all. After a moment of hesitation, he controlled the sword of Burial of Heaven and slowly approached the golden light. When he got close to the ball of light, he used the sword of Burial of Heaven to stir the ball of light. He planned to pull the ball of light out of the lava pool and then try to take it away. However, the dark golden ball of light did not move at all. It was as if it had grown roots and was firmly fixed in the lava pool. Ji Tianqing failed again. Fortunately, the dark golden ball of light had no consciousness and did not know how to attack or counterattack. Otherwise, the sword of Burial of Heaven would immediately be destroyed when the power of a godly king erupted. Ji Tianqing was helpless against the dark golden ball of light, but he was unwilling to give up. He could only think hard and find another way. Yunyao and Jiku also helped to come up with ideas. Ji Tianqing made a few attempts, but they all ended in failure. In the end, he really had no choice but to use his last move. A method that was not a method. Drip blood. This method was very old-fashioned, but it was very common in the martial arts world. It often had unexpected results. In particular, Ji Tianqing's divine blood was not simple. He had fused with the heart blood of his previous life, a drop of true godly king blood. This time he took a risk and decided to use 50% of his blood to try to establish a connection with the dark golden ball of light. When Yunyao and Jiku learned of his decision, they were immediately shocked and hurriedly tried to dissuade him. Tianqing, you can't do this. Stop. Big brother Tianqing, if you lose 50% of your blood, your vitality will be greatly damaged and your strength will drop. However, Ji Tianqing had already made up his mind. He insisted on circulating his energy and condensing his blood. Yunyao and Jiku were very anxious and worried, but there was nothing they could do. The two of them could only protect Ji Tianqing. If he was in any danger, they would immediately help him. Buzz! Ji Tianqing's body shone with golden light. His vitality surged as he soared into the sky. He circulated his energy for 100 breaths and condensed 50% of his blood into a thumb-sized golden drop of blood. Whoosh! The golden drop of blood was released by the sword of Burial of Heaven and landed on the dark golden ball of light. When the drop of blood passed through the earth's core divine flame, the raging fire burned the drop of blood, but the drop of blood remained intact. In the blink of an eye, the golden drop of blood landed on the dark golden ball of light and quickly spread, merging into the ball of light. At that moment, the dark golden ball of light that had been silent for tens of thousands of years seemed to have a life of its own and was revived. Buzz! Dazzling golden divine light suddenly bloomed. It was like a huge cloud that filled the entire hall. In an instant, the hall within a 5-kilometer radius became golden and dazzling. Vast and mighty divine power erupted from the ball of light and surged in the hall. A heaven-shaking, earth-shattering, domineering aura erupted from the ball of light and spread throughout the entire temple. The dark golden ball of light that had been motionless all this time actually started to rotate slowly. This scene made Ji Tianqing, Yunyao, and Jiku very excited. They revealed surprised smiles. Ji Tianqing had lost 50% of his blood, and his vitality was greatly damaged. He became extremely weak. His face was as pale as paper. His body was on the verge of collapse, and his divine sense was on the verge of fainting. However, he was spirited. He endured his weakness and fatigue and used his mind to communicate with the dark golden ball of light. This method was indeed effective. As the divine king's blood merged with the ball of light, Ji Tianqing's mind was also connected to the ball of light. This ball of golden light was like a divine artifact that had been refined by him for many years. It was under his control. He used his mind to control the ball of light. It slowly left the lava and flew into the air. The pool of dark red lava instantly lost its restraints and surged even more violently. When the dark golden ball of light left the lava pool and flew to a corner of the hall, the lava pool's array formation was destroyed, and it lost its balance. The lava in the pool immediately went out of control. Boom! A loud noise erupted from the magma pool, causing the temple to tremble uncontrollably. An endless amount of dark red lava gushed out of the lava pool like a volcanic eruption, scattering all over the hall. In just a few breaths, the hall was filled with dark red lava. The sword of burial of heaven was also enveloped by the dark red lava. It was quickly burned red and gradually distorted. Seeing that the situation was not good, Ji Tianqing made a prompt decision and shouted, "Burial of heaven, run!" The sword of burial of heaven used all its strength to rush out of the lava. It immediately went through a secret door and escaped to the second level of the temple. The surging lava followed closely, drowning the dark stairs and surging to the second level of the temple. At this moment, the entire temple began to shake violently. With a loud rumbling sound, it began to collapse and crumble. The sea of lava around the origin stone mine was also like a volcanic eruption. Hundreds of thousands of feet tall waves of lava crashed toward the origin stone mine. It was not just the temple. The entire origin stone mine was about to be drowned by the sea of lava. The sword of burial of heaven fled with all its might. When it escaped to the first level of the temple, the earth core divine flame and lava that blotted out the sky passed through the temple's door and rushed into the hall. The sword of burial of heaven had nowhere to run. It was about to be swallowed by the lava and divine flame. Chapter 26-27. The sword of burial of heaven was already at the end of its tether. Once it was engulfed by the lava and divine fire, it would be difficult for it to escape the temple. It would definitely be melted into a pool of molten iron and lose all of its power. At this critical moment, Ji Tianqing instinctively controlled the dark golden ball of light to envelop the sword of burial of heaven. Swoosh! The dark golden ball of light was hollow. The sword of burial of heaven shrunk several times after entering it. However, the pressure on it was greatly reduced and it was temporarily safe. Then the earth-shattering earth core divine flame and magma filled the hall, drowning the dark golden ball of light. However, the dark golden ball of light was unharmed. The earthly divine fire and lava could not corrode it. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing and the other two heaved a sigh of relief. The three of them left the world within the sword and stayed inside the dark golden ball of light to observe the situation around them. With the protection of the dark golden ball of light, no matter how fierce the lava and divine fire were, the three of them would not be threatened at all. As the endless lava poured into the temple collapsed completely. The entire origin stone mine was also engulfed by the lava and sank into the sea of lava. Rumble! Loud rumbling sounds rang out incessantly. The shaking of the earth and mountains continued for a long time. Ji Tianqing controlled the dark golden ball of light and flew through the sea of magma at a moderate speed, flying upwards. Soon, the dark golden ball of light entered the bottomless pit and flew upwards. He clenched his teeth and endured for 2 hours. Finally, he could not hold on any longer and fell unconscious. After all, he had lost 50% of his effort and was greatly injured. Even his strength had quietly declined and returned to the second level of the true God realm. Yunyao and Jiku were filled with worry. They hurriedly used their divine arts to heal Ji Tianqing's injuries and replenish his divine power. At this time, the dark golden ball of light had already flown upwards for 60,000 miles and reached the round plate 150,000 miles underground. Ji Tianqing was unconscious and no one could control the ball of light. It quietly stopped on the round plate. The boundless earth core divine fire enveloped it tightly. Not only was it not affected, It even absorbed the power of the earthly divine fire and slowly strengthened itself. Unknowingly, 5 days had passed. After Yunyao and Jike's treatment, Ji Tianqing gradually regained consciousness. Even though his aura was still weak and his face was still pale, but now that he was out of danger, he was able to maintain his consciousness and cultivate normally and heal his injuries. Yunyao looked at him lovingly and asked, Tianqing, you didn't hesitate to use 50% of your efforts to obtain this divine king's light. In the end, not only was your vitality greatly damaged, you even dropped a level. What is the effect of this God King's light that you are willing to pay such a heavy price for? Jike didn't understand either. He said with a heavy heart, Big brother Tianqing, if there's a king-grade divine artifact in this ball of golden light, it's reasonable for you to risk your life like this. But that was just a ball of divine light. Back then, when you were at your peak, you could release millions upon millions of rays of God King light with a flick of your finger. Yunyao and Jike both felt that Ji Tianqing paying such a heavy price for a ball of God King light was really not worth it. Ji Tianqing waved his hand, indicating that they didn't need to worry. He explained patiently, that's right. This is not a king-grade divine artifact. It's just a ball of God King light. But it's not an ordinary God King light. It's a protective divine light that the ancient race's God King spent hundreds of years to carefully refine. If I was still Kenshin and had the strength of a peak God King, I wouldn't be interested in this ball of God King light. But now we only have the strength of a stage 1 or stage 2 true God. How can we be compared to the past? This ball of God King light can not only protect us, but it can also block the magma and divine flames from the Earth's core. It's what we need the most. Even if we have to pay a heavy price, it's worth it. After listening to his explanation, Yunyao and Jike felt much better. Ji Tianqing pointed at the bottomless pit beneath his feet and continued, the millions of divine beings under the ancient race's God King don't believe in heaven and earth. Instead, they worship and yearn for the magma at the Earth's core. They are all powerful divine beings, not ignorant commoners. There must be a reason why they worship and yearn for the magma at the Earth's core. Moreover, this protective divine light that the ancient race's God King spent a lot of effort to refine can not only travel through the magma ocean, but also suppress the Earth's core divine flames. Have you never thought that there might be some heaven-shaking secret hidden in the depths of the Earth's core? Yunyao and Jike's bodies shook. The two of them looked at each other and understood what Ji Tianqing meant. Tianqing, don't tell me. You still want to enter the magma ocean and explore the secrets in the depths of the Earth's core? Big brother Tianqing, you've wanted to explore the Earth's core for a long time, but you're not strong enough. So you want to obtain the God King's light at all costs? Ji Tianqing smiled and nodded. That's right. We've gained a lot from exploring the ancient race's divine palace this time. Moreover, we've already reached the Earth's core and are close to the mystery and the truth. Let me go back and recuperate for a while. Then I'll regroup and continue exploring. Yunyao and Jike considered for a long time before nodding in agreement. After that, Ji Tianqing used the Golden Pagoda to bring Yunyao and Jike back to the Divine Pagoda. The three of them returned to the 6th level's distorted space-time and started recuperating in seclusion. Yunyao and Jike were fine. They weren't injured, but they had used up a lot of their divine power and were mentally exhausted. After recuperating for half a month, the two of them recovered to normal. Ji Tianqing's vital energy was greatly damaged, and his strength had dropped to the 2nd level of the true God realm. The situation was a little complicated. He first recuperated for 10 years before recovering his vital energy and recovering from his injuries. However, it was very difficult to recover the 50% of his God King blood that he had lost. After that, he cultivated in seclusion for another 15 years before his strength returned to the 3rd level of the true God realm. However, he didn't end his seclusion. The drop in his cultivation level this time was a blow to him, but it was also a training and opportunity. His divine soul and will became even more resilient and powerful. His foundation of the divine Tao was also more solid and firm. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he charged to the 4th level of the true God realm in one go. This process was very long, but he had enough patience. Unknowingly, another 20 years passed. Ji Tianqing's strength broke through the 3rd level of the true God realm, and reached the fourth level of the true God realm. Only now did he end his seclusion cultivation. It had been 45 years since he started his seclusion to recuperate. Only 11 months had passed in the outside world. During this period, Yun Yao and Ji Ke cultivated in seclusion for more than 20 years. In the remaining time, the two of them were busy dealing with the Divine Kingdom's government affairs and teaching Chanqian and Ye. After Ji Tianqing came out of seclusion, he saw that the Shenwu continent was safe and sound, and that the Heaven Punisher hadn't invaded. Thus, he left the Divine Tower alone and headed to the hidden Dragon Abyss in the northern part of Tianqing's Divine Kingdom. 2 days later, he passed through the abyss and arrived at the human territory in the Earth's core. The humans in the Earth's core were mining origin stones as usual, working hard without complaint. Ji Tianqing headed to the depths of the Sea of Lava, passed through the mysterious black hole, and returned to the ancient God King's palace. This palace, which was 1,500 kilometers underground, hadn't changed at all. The changes 180,000 kilometers underground hadn't affected it in the slightest. Chapter 26-28. Ji Tianqing did not bring anyone with him. He moved alone. Through the teleportation array in the palace, he arrived at a depth of 60,000 miles and entered the bottomless pit. Then, through the teleportation array on the disk, he walked step by step toward the deepest part of the bottomless pit. When he reached a depth of 180,000 miles, he could not withstand the Earth core divine fire, so he used the light of the God King. With the protection of the dark golden ball of light, he could move freely in the sea of fire. There was a boundless sea of lava in all directions. The Origin Stone Mine and the ancient race God King's cave abode had long been submerged by the sea of lava. Fortunately, the sea of lava had already calmed down and did not pour into the bottomless pit. What Ji Tianqing was worried about did not happen. He used the light of the God King to protect his body and entered the sea of lava, flying toward the depths of the Earth's core. Swoosh! The dark golden ball of light sped through the sea of lava, getting closer and closer to the Earth's core. The pressure on it also increased. However, wherever the dark golden ball of light passed, the lava would avoid it as if it had a life of its own. The terrifying pressure and high temperature were all isolated by the dark golden ball of light. It did not affect Ji Tianqing at all. As time passed, the depth he went became more and more exaggerated. From 180,000 miles to 250,000 miles, 300,000 miles, 400,000 miles, 500,000 miles. Unknowingly, a month had passed. The dark golden ball of light was still speeding through the sea of lava, as if it would never reach the end. Ji Tianqing's position was already 10 million miles underground. This was the depths of the Earth's core. Since ancient times, no one had ever come here before. In this month, Ji Tianqing did not encounter any obstacles, nor did he discover any living creatures. It was as if he was lost in the endless sea of lava. He could not find a way out, nor could he distinguish north from south. The scenery around him was an eternal dark red. If not for the increasing pressure on the dark golden ball of light, causing it to fly slower and slower, he would have suspected that he was walking in the same place. As I expected, the depths of the Earth's core is endless lava. The entire five elements world seems to have mountains, rivers, vast continents, and oceans on the surface. But in reality, the interior of the world is endless lava. I wonder why the ancient race gods worship the sea of lava in the Earth's core? There's nothing special about it. Ji Tianqing could not help but mutter in his heart. However, he had already explored for a month, so he couldn't just give up. Therefore, he could only continue to explore and fly deeper into the magma sea. 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Soon half a year had passed. Ji Tianqing couldn't remember exactly how far he had flown to the core of the Earth, and how many tens of thousands of miles he was from the surface. He only knew that this half a year of exploration was incomparably boring. He had never encountered any life forms, and there was only dark red lava around him. The resistance the dark golden ball of light was facing was increasing, and its flying speed was also decreasing. Furthermore, the ball of light's energy had been greatly depleted, and its color had become even dimmer. Ji Tianqing couldn't help but feel worried. How could this be? Was there nothing else in the depths of the Earth's core other than lava? For half a year, I've searched close to 100 million miles, but I haven't found a single clue. Even the Divine King's light couldn't withstand such consumption, and its power was constantly weakening. I'll search for another 3 months, and if there are still no clues, I can only return to the Divine Pagoda. If the power of the Divine King's light was exhausted, it would not be able to help him withstand the terrifying heat and pressure. Once he lost the protection of the Divine King's light, he would be crushed into minced meat in an instant, and burned to ashes by the lava. Day after day passed. Ji Tianqing suppressed his anxiousness and calmed himself down, patiently searching the area. Finally, on the 85th day, he saw a patch of black appear in the magma sea in front of him. Looking from afar, that patch of black looked like a small mountain of origin stones. However, when Ji Tianqing flew closer, he saw clearly that it was a black vortex with a radius of 10,000 miles. The enormous vortex was moving rapidly in the magma, wildly devouring the endless magma. The terrifying devouring power enveloped a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles. The dark golden ball of light was also being pulled, flying toward the black vortex. Ji Tianqing was shocked, and he cursed in his heart. He hurriedly controlled the dark golden ball of light and fled into the distance. However, the black vortex pounced over like lightning, far exceeding the speed of Ji Tianqing's escape. The devouring power became stronger and stronger, and the dark golden ball of light gradually went out of control, and was soon swallowed by the vortex. Ji Tianqing's vision turned black, and he fell into boundless darkness. His divine sense and 5 senses were isolated, and he was immersed in the darkness, unable to do anything. It's over. I'm dead for sure this time. This thought flashed through his mind before he fainted. After an unknown period of time, perhaps it was a day or perhaps it was a year, Ji Tianqing's consciousness gradually woke up from the muddle-headedness. I'm still alive. Thank goodness. This thought flashed through his mind, and he only felt a splitting headache. After checking, he discovered that his divine sense had suffered heavy injuries, and his consciousness was somewhat blurry. After panting for a moment, he gradually opened his eyes. When he saw the surroundings clearly, he was instantly stunned. The Divine King's light had not shattered, and he was still lying in the dark golden ball of light. However, the dark golden ball of light was suspended in an alternate space. This alternate space had a radius of more than 100,000 miles, like a huge golden ball of light. Outside the ball of light was an endless torrent of magma, surging and rolling wildly, forming a gorgeous and colorful scene. And inside the ball of light, there was a golden mountain peak that was thousands of feet tall, standing in the middle, emitting a dazzling golden light. At the foot of the golden mountain peak, hundreds of millions of colorful branches extended out, spreading out on the ground like meridians. The air was filled with golden divine power, and the surroundings were dead silent, without any signs of life. Not only were there no birds or beasts, there was not even a tree or a stalk of grass. This was a special space that was deathly silent, yet grotesquely colorful and dazzlingly colorful. Ji Tianqing stayed in the Divine King's light, staring with wide eyes as he sized up all of this, and his eyes revealed a strong look of amazement. What terrifying divine power! What a powerful aura! Where is this place? Could it be the core of the 5 elements world? Ji Tianqing thought of Purple Heaven Cave. That special mystic realm was located in the underground core of Purple Heaven Planet, and it contained supreme mysteries. And this golden ball of light in front of him was similarly mysterious and powerful, and it was located in the depths of the core. At the thought of this, Ji Tianqing's heart was filled with excitement and anticipation. He hurriedly drove the Divine King's light and flew towards the golden divine mountain in the distance. Along the way, he saw hundreds of millions of branches that spread out all over the ground. Those branches shone with 5-colored divine light, exuding an ancient, majestic, and mysterious aura that was even stronger than the power of a divine king. This is the power of the world. Ji Tianqing's eyes widened, revealing a strong look of surprise. This is indeed the core of the 5 elements world. Chapter 26-29. The so-called power of the world was the original power of a star. When the world power multiplied and strengthened, it could turn a barren star into a world with life. Conversely, if the world power collapsed and dissipated, the entire world would also be destroyed, turning into dust. Ji Tianqing was once a transcendent divine king, and had also come into contact with the world power. He was deeply aware that grasping the world power meant grasping the life and death of a world. The life and death of that world was between his thoughts. However, the world power only existed in the core position of the world. Non-divine king powerhouses could not come into contact with it. But he did not expect that he, who was just a true god, could actually barge into the core of the five elements world and come into contact with the sacred and powerful world power. This was absolutely the greatest surprise in his life. Could it be that I was protected by the divine king's light? That's why I could barge into the core of the world? If not for the protection of the divine king's light, I would have long been destroyed by the pressure and high temperature of the Earth's core. I would also be unable to withstand the power of space tearing and would have long turned into ashes. Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and guessed the reason behind it. For him to be able to come here by luck, it could not be separated from the divine king's light. Looking at it this way, what a wise decision it was for him to sacrifice 50% of his effort to refine the divine king's light back then. For hours later, Ji Tianqing arrived near the Golden Mountain Peak. The resplendent 10,000 feet mountain peak was even more dazzling than the sun, emitting surging world power that overflowed to the heavens. The five colored veins that covered a radius of 100,000 miles extended out from the bottom of this mountain peak. Ji Tianqing immediately understood. This mountain peak is the core of the five elements world, and also the core of the entire star. Once this golden mountain is destroyed, the entire world will collapse, and the star will also become barren. Conversely, whoever can refine this golden mountain will be able to control the entire five elements world. Ji Tianqing stared at the golden mountain with a burning gaze, muttering to himself. The hot blood in his entire body was ignited. An incomparable impulse and desire was born from the bottom of his heart. Who could remain calm in the face of a star's core? If the five elements world was just an ordinary mortal world, perhaps Ji Tianqing would not be so moved. However, he had already confirmed that the five elements world was once one of the main worlds. It was comparable to the God realm and the Dragon realm. Since he had come to the core area of the five elements world by chance, what reason did he have to let go of the star core? The core of this planet is mine. The entire five elements world is mine. Ji Tianqing licked his lips and growled excitedly. After calming himself down, he began to cast a spell. He released 2 streaks of golden divine power and struck the golden mountain peak. However, when the 2 divine powers landed on the golden mountain, there was no reaction at all. The surging power of the world directly bounced the 2 golden lights away, shattering them into pieces. This outcome was within Ji Tianqing's expectations. His lips curled into a bitter smile as he muttered, "Haha, as expected. Only the power of a divine king can shake the core of a star." Although he was mentally prepared, this result still made him feel somewhat helpless. After weighing the pros and cons, he activated the power of the dark golden ball of light, and released a golden divine light that blasted toward the golden mountain. The golden light that split out from the dark golden ball of light was the true power of a divine king. Boom! The golden light blasted the golden mountain and exploded with a deafening sound. The golden mountain trembled a few times but was not shattered. There was not even a crack. The divine power merged into the golden mountain and radiated outwards, enveloping a radius of 1,000 feet. Ji Tianqing had a bloodline connection with the divine king's light. Naturally, he could also connect with the golden mountain through the divine king's power. He could clearly sense that the golden mountain was indeed the core of the planet. Its sturdiness was comparable to a top king-grade divine weapon. The core of the planet was like a golden stone, but it seemed to have a life of its own. It was filled with the veins of the world. They were like tiny blood vessels in the human body, interconnected. Ji Tianqing's mind was immersed in the golden mountain peak, as he carefully observed it. Gradually, he formed a subtle connection with the core of the planet. Many strange images also appeared in his mind. There were pitch-black underground rock formations, mountain ranges buried deep underground, lush primitive forests, and a vast and boundless ocean. Of course, there was also a dark red sea of magma. As his mind spread out and came into contact with the veins of the world one after another, the images that appeared in his mind also constantly changed. The images were incomparably clear as if he was there. This feeling was very subtle. It was as if he had transformed into the five elements world and seen the scenery of various parts of the world. The feeling of controlling the world. It's been a long time. Ji Tianqing was intoxicated. He closed his eyes and carefully sensed. A gratified smile appeared on his face. 1,000 years ago, Qinshan had also refined many planet cores. He even refined more than a dozen planets into pearls and made them into heavenly star chains. Therefore, he was not unfamiliar with the core of the planet. He was also very familiar with the feeling of controlling the planet. However, only an hour had passed, and Ji Tianqing had only come into contact with several tens of thousands of veins of the world. His consciousness became more and more dizzy. The images in his mind also became blurry. He was gradually about to faint. My current strength is really too weak. Only persisting for an hour, only seeing the tip of the iceberg of the five elements world, and my mind can't hold on anymore. Ji Tianqing sighed helplessly. He hurriedly withdrew his mind and sat in the dark golden light cluster to meditate and cultivate. If divine power was depleted, he could use source stones to quickly recover. But when his mind was exhausted, his divine soul was tired. He could only slowly recover through cultivation. After a full half a month, Ji Tianqing's divine soul finally recovered to normal. He used his mind to communicate with the planet core again, attempting to refine a certain world vein. Those planets that I refined back then generally had tens of billions of world veins. It was very complicated. The five elements world's grade is even higher than those planets. The number of world veins must have reached tens of billions. As long as I can refine tens of billions of world veins, I can control the entire five elements world. Ji Tianqing pondered silently. He only felt that the pressure was very great. The burden was heavy and there was still a long way to go. But this was also something that could not be helped. Wanting to refine the planet core, there was no shortcut to speak of. Even a divine king expert had to refine the world vein step by step. Ji Tianqing did not speak anymore. He concentrated on controlling his mind and refining that hair-like world vein. Although that world vein was as thin as a hair, only slightly more than 10 feet long, it represented a mountain range that was hundreds of thousands of miles long in the southern wilderness. When Ji Tianqing refined this world vein, the image of that huge mountain range appeared in his mind. Every grain of sand, every flower, every living being in the mountain range appeared clearly in his mind. It took him a total of 5 days to refine this world vein. In this way, that huge mountain range was under his control. He only needed a thought to control the life and death of that mountain range. Chapter 26:30. Although the matter of refining a world vein made Ji Tianqing very excited and yearned for it, controlling a mountain range that was hundreds of thousands of miles long also gave him a sense of accomplishment and was full of excitement. But he had no choice but to face reality and consider a very serious problem. A full 5 days and only refined one world vein. There are at least several tens of billions of world veins in this star core that is 10,000 feet tall. If I want to refine the entire star core, how long will it take? At least a few 100 million years, right? This answer made Ji Tianqing roll his eyes, revealing a helpless expression. A few 100 million years? Even the most powerful divine king only has a few 100,000 years of lifespan. And I only have several tens of thousands of years of lifespan. At this speed, even rebirth 10,000 times might not be enough. This problem made people despair just thinking about it slightly. Ji Tianqing could only withdraw his thoughts and consider other methods. Using the power of a divine king to refine a world vein is seriously too slow. Furthermore, the power of a divine king will be exhausted very soon. Looks like I can only take a gamble and try that last method. Ji Tianqing gritted his teeth and finally made up his mind. He put away the divine king light and flew towards the summit of the golden mountain. Swoosh! Facing the surging and mighty golden light, withstanding the horrifying power of the world, He landed on the summit of the Golden Mountain. Crack, crack, crack. His divine light shield was lightly swept by the power of the world, and it fell apart. Immediately after, the white robe and long hair that he was wearing were also blown by a gust of light wind, turning into fine powder. His robust and perfect divine body that was sparkling and translucent like jade immediately appeared. Wisps of power of the world emerged from the Golden Mountain and lightly streaked across his body. Immediately, densely packed wounds were cut all over his body, and golden divine blood seeped out. The divine blood condensed into blood droplets and scattered on the Golden Mountain one after another. Drip, 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 drip. Following a series of light sounds, countless blood droplets drilled into the Golden Mountain. The Golden Mountain that was already resplendent became even more dazzling and eye-catching. The countless droplets of blood also ignited with a pure golden divine fire that spread throughout the Golden Mountain. However, Ji Tianqing did not seem to feel any pain. He sat motionlessly on the Golden Mountain and closed his eyes to circulate his energy. He was activating the divine king blood, purifying it and dripping it onto the Golden Mountain. At the same time, he was also using a forbidden divine technique, the blood sacrifice technique. The reason why this technique was called a taboo was because it required a large amount of one's blood and sweat. Under normal circumstances, the blood sacrifice technique would only be used to quickly refine divine artifacts and treasures, or to impart cultivation to others. The consequences of using the blood sacrifice technique were very serious. In less serious cases, they would destroy their own cultivation base, causing their realm to plummet and their divine Tao foundation to be damaged. In serious cases, one's bloodline would be completely lost, and one's divine Tao foundation would collapse. One would be reduced to an ordinary person, or even directly die. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, almost no deity would use this method. But now, Ji Tianqing didn't hesitate to take a risk for the sake of the Five Elements World Star Core. Each drop of divine blood contained a powerful sacrificial power. The blood droplets entered the Golden Mountain and rapidly spread out, corroding one world meridian after another. The world meridian that was soaked in divine blood formed a bloodline connection with Ji Tianqing, and would be controlled by him very quickly. In a short 100 breaths of time, Ji Tianqing had sacrificed several thousand world meridian blood. However, the pain that he endured was also not something that ordinary people could endure. The current him was covered in tiny wounds all over. There was practically no intact flesh to be found. Large amounts of divine blood seeped out, condensing into countless blood droplets, and continuously sprinkled onto the Golden Mountain. His entire person became a golden blood man. As his blood and sweat rapidly flowed out, his expression became increasingly pale, and his aura also became increasingly weak. His strength was also rapidly declining. Even his divine soul was also rapidly weakening. An hour later, he lost close to half of his divine blood. The remaining 50% of divine king blood in his body was also completely forced out by him, all fusing into the Golden Mountain. He was already an arrow at the end of its flight. Not only was his condition unbearably weak, his consciousness also became blurry. Not only was his life aura weak, even his strength realm also started to fall. Before long, he fell to the third level of the true God realm. 2 hours later, he fell to the second level of the true God realm. 4 hours later, his realm fell to the first level of the true God realm. The current him had fallen to the state of just breaking through to the true God realm. His tempered divine body was also covered in cracks, as if it would shatter with a touch. Only 30% of his blood remained. His divine power was exhausted, and his flame of life was on the verge of extinguishing. His consciousness also fell into darkness. At the last moment before losing consciousness, he brought out the divine king's light, enveloping himself. Swoosh! A dark golden ball of light appeared, enveloping him, and quietly suspended at the peak of the Golden Mountain. His consciousness fell into darkness and he fainted. Fortunately, the divine king's light protected him, not being cut and suppressed by the world power. He was temporarily safe and his life was not in danger. However, no one knew when he would wake up. The 70% of divine blood he lost had already become over 10,000 blood droplets, all fusing into the golden mountain. The golden blood droplets were spreading from the surface of the golden mountain, spreading down from the peak. Wherever the god's blood passed, the veins of the world would be tainted. Even though Ji Tianqing was unconscious, the 10,000 droplets of divine blood were helping him refine the world meridians, continuously controlling the various regions of the 5 elements world. Inside the 9 heavens 10 absolutes pagoda, space was distorted. Yunyao ended her secluded cultivation that had lasted for 100 years. She had gained a lot from this secluded cultivation, successfully breaking through to the 3rd level of the true God realm. After ending her cultivation, she found Chunchen and Yaya, wanting to bring them to see Ji Tianqing. Chunchen and Yaya, both of you have passed the 9 heavenly tribulations and reached the martial sage realm. Your father will definitely be very happy to hear this news. Yunyao held Chunchen and Yaya's hands, and a gratified smile appeared on her face. Chunchen and Yaya had both grown taller, and they looked like 6 or 7-year-old children. Their auras had become more noble, and their appearances had become more outstanding. However, the 3 of them had just flown for a short distance when they met Jiku, who was flying towards them. Eldest senior sister, where are you bringing the 2 children? Jiku stopped the 3 of them and asked. Not long ago, Chunchen and Yaya broke through to the martial sage realm at the same time. I'm bringing them to report the good news to Tianqing. Yunyao explained and asked. That's right, Tianqing should be back by now, right? Jiku shook his head worriedly. I've just looked for him, but he hasn't returned yet. Yunyao immediately frowned and said worriedly. It's been almost 4 years since he left the divine pagoda to explore the Earth's core. Regardless of whether he has gained anything in the Earth's core, he should have returned by now. Jiku nodded and said, that's right. I wonder if he has discovered something in the Earth's core? Although he has the Divine King's light and should be safe, I'm still a little worried. Yunyao thought for a while and took out an origin stone jade slip, saying, Cuckoo, don't worry. I'll send a message to Tianqing to ask about the situation. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.